Good evening. Welcome to the June 6, 2023 meeting of the Greensboro City Council. We are in the Katie Dorsett Council Chamber. People wishing to speak must sign up by 6 o'clock by using the Q-Minder kiosk just outside the council door. Please see the courier for assistance. Let the record reflect that all members of City Council are in attendance. Please silence any electronic devices. If you must make or receive a phone call, kindly do so from outside the chamber. We will begin tonight's meeting with a moment of silence. Thank you. Ms. Abuzawader, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yes. She don't know the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know. Thank you. We welcome speakers to address Council on specific agenda items. During the first meeting of the month, time is dedicated for speakers to address Council on non-agenda items. We do have a number of business items that we will take care of before we get to speakers from the floor. Speakers will probably be heard around 6:30. Speakers are allotted 3 minutes for comments. Zoning matters allow for 15-minute presentations, both for and against. There is a 5-minute rebuttal period for each side, pro and con. At this time, all speaker handouts should be provided to the city clerk or the courier to distribute to council. Speakers should not approach the dais unless invited by council. The City of Greensboro is committed to promoting an environment that is free of discrimination, bias, and bullying. Zoom participants are requested to mute their microphones until they are called upon to speak. All meeting attendees are expected to respect speakers and council deliberations. People disrupting the meeting will be removed from the meeting. By statute, council members must vote on all items unless there is a direct financial interest or if they sit on the board of a nonprofit who is receiving funding from the city. All votes will be moved and seconded. The mayor will announce the vote total. Grouping of agenda items that are voted on with one single vote to expedite what are believed to be routine and non-controversial items. Any council member may withdraw an item from the consent agenda due to a conflict of interest or for the purpose of voting no. Items removed from the consent agenda for discussion will be placed on the May 16th, second meeting in June City Council business agenda. This meeting does include closed captioning. Depending on the length of tonight's meeting, we may take a short recess around 7:30. This is the time for our ceremonial or presentation items. Item 1 is a city manager's report. Mr. City Manager, do you have anything this evening?
None, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Item E2 is a resolution to honor the memory of the late Doris Dean Canada. Mayor Pro Tem.
Resolution to honor the memory of the late Doris Dean Canada. Whereas on April 28, 2023, the community felt the loss of Greensboro resident Doris Dean Canada. Whereas spending her childhood in Greensboro, Mrs. Canada attended Washington Street Elementary School and Emmanuel Lutheran College High School. Before graduation from North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, A&T, and later became a graduate of the University of Kentucky's School of Business Management Institute. Whereas in commitment to her alumni, Mrs. Canada was employed for 38 years at North Carolina A&T State University until retirement, where she served as Assistant Vice Chancellor of the Business Service Division. Whereas growing with professional development, she was a certified public manager and a master trainer. Whereas being recognized for her work, Mrs. Canada received awards and honors to include the North Carolina Public Manager and was named the University Employee of the Year. Whereas at an early age, she joined United Institutional Baptist Church, where she served as church secretary, an announcer, and a Sunday school teacher. Whereas Mrs. Canada was a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, Beta Iota Omega chapter, Order of the Eastern Stars, Immaculate chapter number 537, Daughters of Iris, K-Leaf Court, number 90, the Royal Social Club, Pinochle and Bridge Clubs, the Double Deckers, the Windsor Center Card Club, and the Citadel Club, and the A&T Alumni Association, where she served as the Gate City Chapter President in 1970, where she leaves a legacy for her smile, willingness to help, her honesty, and her sense of humor. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Greensboro that the City Council wishes to express its condolences and offer its sincere appreciation and gratitude for the years of dedicated service of the late Doris Dean Canada. Her legacy will be remembered by the lives she influenced in education, the faith community, and other voluntary organizations. That this copy will be given to the members of the family, and they are members of the family here, as a symbol of our gratitude of the people of Greensboro for her devoted efforts and contributions to our community. Will her family stand, and will a member from her family, I think it's her niece.
So that item was moved by Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Holston. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes 9-0.
The family of Doris Dean Canada appreciates this award from Greensboro, North Carolina. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Item E3 is a resolution to declare Josephus Thompson III honorary designation of Poet 1 for 1 year. Poet Laureate?
Poet Laureate.
Yes, Poet Laureate. Oh, sorry. It was, for 1 year. Mayor Pro Tem?
This is a resolution to declare Josephus Thompson III with an honorary designation of Poet Laureate for the city of Greensboro, North Carolina, for 1 year. Where are you, Josephus? Oh, okay. He's in line. Oh boy!
If we could bring Josephus in, and
okay.
if you would like to join us at the,
okay.
If you
I
join
just
us at
wanted
the
to make
podium.
sure you were here to hear all this good stuff about you. Whereas the city of Greensboro recognizes the long, diverse, and rich history of the arts as an important element of our community. Whereas the city of Greensboro supports the arts, promotes poetry and literacy, and is seeking ways to make the arts more vibrant and accessible to all residents. Whereas the Poet Laureate composes poems that raise consciousness to a greater appreciation of arts and poetry. Whereas the Greensboro City Council resolves to declare Josephus Thompson III with an honorary designation of Poet Laureate for the city of Greensboro for 1 year. Whereas poet Josephus Thompson is a self-employed artist with a focus on spoken word poetry, has participated for 14 years in the Poetry Cafe, Greensboro's longest running poetry event, creates opportunities for up and coming poets through creative summer camps and writing workshops. Whereas it has been said of poet Josephus Thompson that he believes in feeding the mind, body, and soul through his art, and now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Greensboro, North Carolina, declares Josephus Thompson III an honorary designation of Port Laureate for 1 year to be effective June 6, 2023 through June 6, 2024 for the City of Greensboro.
Thank you.
So that is moved by Mayor Pro Tem. May I have a second?
I seconded
by
it
Mrs.
already.
Busewaiter.
I seconded it. I motioned to second it already.
Well, let it recognize that there was a unanimous second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that passes 9-0. Would you like to make some comments?
Yes. First of all, thank you. Thank you very much to the City of Greensboro, to Shantae for nominating me. This is a great honor. Poets often tell stories, but never get to be a poet laureate for their city. So I'm happy to be the voice of the city and excited about what's going to happen the next year. So thank you again for having me.
So,
Thank you, Josephus, for your work, and I look forward to what you're going to do at Juneteenth in a couple weeks.
normally we don't do proclamations at city council meetings, but I did make an exception in this case. This is a proclamation in recognition of Omega Psi Phi 100th celebration, and this will be read by City Councilman Hugh Holston and City Councilwoman Sharon Hightower.
Thank you. This proclamation for the great work that Omega Psi Phi fraternity has done in this community and will continue to do. So I'm honored to read this. Whereas on November 17th, 1911, Omega Psi Phi was founded at Howard University, located in Washington, D.C. The fraternity was incorporated in the District of Columbia on October 28th of 1914. Whereas the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, the fraternity incorporated, was the first international fraternal organization founded on the campus of a historically black college. And whereas the fraternity comes from the initials of the Greek phrase meaning friendship is essential to the soul. And whereas the fraternity played a vital role during the United States World War I in 1917, and whereas the fraternity built a strong and effective force of men dedicated to the candid principles of manhood, scholarship, and perseverance, and whereas the Tau Omega chapter, Tau Omega, was established and chartered by the fraternity's Supreme Council on June 15, 1923, and whereas the Tau Omega is the third chapter in the fraternity's 6th district and the first graduate chapter in North Carolina, and has contributed to the Greensboro community for the past 100 years.
And whereas the Tau Omega was initially comprised of Greensboro and Winston-Salem primarily, but later included High Point, Burlington, Reedsville, Siler City, and surrounding areas of the Triad. And whereas Brother Jasper Alston Atkins served as the 9th Grand Basilisk of the fraternity from 1921 to 1924. During this time, he orchestrated the fraternity into 5 districts, appointed district representatives, created the Vice Grand Basilisk position at the 11th Annual Grand Conclave, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 1922, and created the Omega Talent Hunt Contest, giving equal opportunity to African-American youth. And whereas the Tau Omega held the first district meeting in Greensboro on March 26, 1929, and whereas the fraternity has 13 districts across the globe, recognizing Tau Omega as a keystone to the organization's growth at the critical time of its establishment and by the men who led the chapter. And whereas the Tau Omega chapter has activated chapters within Omega, including Mu Psi, North Carolina A&T in 1927, Psi Phi, Winston-Salem, North Carolina in 1932, Beta Kappa Kappa, High Point, 1994, Sigma Chi, Reedsville, 1955, Delta Lambda Lambda, Burlington, 2000, and Alpha Data Zelta chapter, UNC Greensboro, 2004. Now, therefore, I, Nancy Vaughn, Mayor of the City of Greensboro, do hereby proclaim.
My pleasure.
Do hereby proclaim the week of June 12th through June 18 a time of recognition of the 100th celebration of Tau Omega Chapter, the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, in Greensboro, North Carolina, and commend efforts of this significant organization for its service and dedication to the cause of those in need of our community. In witness thereof, and on behalf of the Mayor, Nancy Vaughn, I hereunto set my hand and cause the corporate seal of the City of Greensboro to be affixed this 6th day of June, 2023. Congratulations, gentlemen.
So that was moved jointly by Councilwoman Hightower, Councilman
And I'll
Holston,
second
and
it.
seconded, but you two moved it jointly.
Well, he moved it, I'll second it.
Okay,
I third it.
and she'll third it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Hugh, people get us confused all the time.
We appreciate it so much. Good evening. My name is Wilson Lester, and I have the pleasure of serving as the bosses of the Tau Omega chapter this centennial year. I'm humbled to have my brothers with me and to be before this council and receive this recognition. We work with so many of you in different aspects of our work and in our service to the community. We are an organization that is committed to Greensboro. We have a model that is based on friendship and a city that's based on friendship. And we want you all to know that we are one that's going to stay for another 100 years and stay committed to this community, stay committed to civil rights and our mandated programs, which include NAACP, which include assault on illiteracy, working with our students in the community, and a myriad of other programs that we hope that we can continue our partnerships with in the future. Thank you so kindly.
Thank you, and thank you, gentlemen. So you are more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but if you would like to leave, we understand that too.
We've seen how this is done before.
Yeah, thank you.
Wilson?
Well-
Wilson?
Wilson, hold on.
And all of the Omega brothers, I do have to share this one thing, that I did dress appropriately for the event today.
Well, I just want to say, you know, y'all did, one of y'all reached out to a Kappa. I don't know about that. But he's in good company. But I want to thank you all, too, for the work you do in this community. Wilson, I have absolutely enjoyed working with you, and there's Gary and Charles and all of you all. I know the important work you do, and I thank you all very much for all your efforts. So, thank you.
We are going to postpone item E5, which is the Mayor's Committee Scholarship.
Cut your mic off.
We are going to postpone item E5, which is the Mayor's Committee Scholarship Recognition. Mr. City Manager, Mr. City Attorney, do we need a vote on that?
I don't think under y'all's rules you do.
No?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. So we will bring that back at a later date. We now have a couple of public hearing items. Item F1 is a public hearing for a resolution authorizing an economic development incentive to Pro Kidney LLC in amount not to exceed $13,273,645. Mr. Yandel?
Thank you. Marshall Yandel, Economic Development Manager for the city. Pro Kidney LLC is a late-stage biotech company founded in 2015 and headquartered in Winston-Salem. They are considering an expansion in Greensboro or locations including Virginia, Texas, and California. The company is working on a cell therapy treatment for chronic kidney disease, and this would be the company's first biomanufacturing facility for the commercialization of this cell therapy. The expansion would result in a capital investment of $458 million by the end of 2027 and 330 new jobs by the end of 2028. The average wage of those jobs is $74,636 a year, and none of those jobs would pay below $15 an hour. The company is requesting a 10-year incentive in the amount of $13,273,645, and they are also being considered for incentives by the state of North Carolina. This is the slide that shows they've blown past all of our minimum requirements for consideration for incentives of 25 jobs, $7 million investment in the Guilford County average wage. And staff would recommend council consider this request to authorize these incentives. This would be paid again over 10 consecutive years, which would encompass the job creation and retention period for that time. 330 new jobs will be retained through that installment period. The construction portion of this project would also, of course, adhere to the city's MWBE program, and we've already spoken with the representatives from the company about what would be expected. The new jobs will be posted on the local workforce development board and will be required to have a job fair at each of the hiring phases. Here tonight is Mr. Marvin J. Price from the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Todd Girolamo of Pro Kidney, and Mr. John Hunter of Womblebond Dickinson. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Yandel? I'd say that this is another one of the very exciting projects that are coming up, and we certainly hope that Greensboro will be chosen. So is there a motion?
Second.
Moved by
Second.
Mrs. Thurman, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. Council, please vote.
I had a question, I guess.
Oh,
you
I'm
all
sorry,
just,
Mrs. Hightower.
I'll just roll it on.
Hey.
Hey. The one question I guess I did have, and I guess they're still choosing the site.
Yes.
Will we have a list of the jobs that they will look to fill, like what they are and the skills and things that they'll be looking for?
I can give you a list of the types of jobs that they're going to be hiring for, yes.
Yeah, that oftentimes helps, so when you know you're trying to recruit individuals for jobs, what skills and abilities they lack, and where we would need to help in training and for that type of.
Yeah, and they'll be working with Guilford Works as well on this, as well for the hiring piece. So.
Right, because we have an extra incentive also that if they were to hire within the impact zones
Correct.
1 and 2, they also would get almost another $500.
Yes, they'd be
incentive.
eligible for an additional $250 if hired in an impact zone, hiring someone from an impact zone 1 or 2, and if they hire through Guilford Works, an additional $250 on top of that.
Correct.
Yep.
So that I think is an added incentive, but it also says to our residents that we are serious about making sure they get an opportunity to improve their socioeconomic status
Yes,
as
ma'am.
well. So, okay. Thank you very
Okay.
much for that.
So this has been moved by Mrs. Thurm and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that passes 9-0. For clarification for people who are viewing this meeting and you see a big number like 13 million, I want you to understand that, nobody runs down the hall and writes a check, that it actually is paid out over a period of 10 years and that there are audit procedures in place to make sure that the jobs are actually hired and at the dollar value they are hired, and that they've made the commitment, which is a very large commitment to our community, almost $500 million before these incentives are paid out. I think this is money very well spent, and again, I want to say thank you. So now we will move on to item E2, which is a public hearing for an ordinance for rezoning at 401 Mears Chapel Road and 4900 Kenview Street, Amanda Hodiern, for David Slope of SC Midtown LLC. And I do want to state the reason why this has ended up on our agenda is because at the last zoning meeting, by the time this issue came up, there were only 5 members in attendance, and as you know, they need a positive vote of 6. Therefore, it came to the City Council. It did pass unanimously 5-0. Ms. Hodiern is here for questions, and I believe we do have one speaker who has signed up to speak. I'm not sure if they are for or against the project, but Mr. Kirkman, if you can give us a very brief overview.
Yes, I would be happy to. Thank you, Mayor Vaughn and members of City Council. Again, the request is a rezoning from R3 residential single family to CDRM 26 conditional district residential multifamily. North and west of the subject request is zoned R3 residential single family and RM8 residential multifamily. East of the subject property is a combination of R3 residential single family and RM12 residential multifamily. And south of the property is zoned R3 residential single family, and then further to the south is CDRM 26. The subject property is currently undeveloped at this time. North of the request is a community garden, outdoor recreation field, and a parking area related to a religious assembly use, as well as multifamily dwellings. East of the request is a cemetery and religious assembly uses, as well as multifamily dwellings. South of the request is a cemetery and undeveloped land, as well as single-family and multifamily dwellings. And west of the request is undeveloped land and single-family dwellings and multifamily dwellings. Property is designated as residential on the future land use map of the comprehensive plan and as urban general on the future built form map. There are 2 conditions that are associated with the request that were advertised as part of the hearing this evening. Staff has concluded that this request does meet the comprehensive plan's filling in our framework big idea to arrange our land uses where we live, work, attend school, and other activities for a more livable Greensboro, and the creating great places big idea to meet housing needs and desires with a sufficient and diverse supply of housing products, prices, and locations. The proposed request is compatible with the adjacent nearby religious assembly uses and the existing residential uses of varying scales and densities in the area, and staff is recommending approval of the request. Planning and Zoning Commission, as noted by the mayor, did hear this item at their May 15th meeting, did vote to approve it, but because there were less than 6 affirmative votes, it came to City Council. At that hearing, there was 1 speaker in favor and 1 against. I can answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Kirkman?
I'd like to see the conditions.
Oops.
Are there any questions for Ms. Hodiern? We do have one speaker who I believe is on Zoom. Brian Fitzgerald. Mr. Fitzgerald, are you on Zoom?
Yes, I am.
Can you turn your camera on? Okay.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. I want to thank everybody for the service on the council. Yeah, so the reason I wanted to call in is really just kind of as a concerned homeowner, kind of to understand a little bit and also just to express a couple concerns. I can't say that I'm definitively opposing the motion, but I do want to again express a few things and just see see if there's any reaction to that. But as somebody who's lived in Greensboro for almost 25 years, also a graduate of UNCG, I again want to thank you guys for your service to the community. The challenge for me is that I'm actually right across the street from the proposed rezoning, literally just across the street on Kenview. And, I guess one of the challenges for me is to the south of my property where I live, as you guys may be aware, there was a multifamily, apartment complex essentially that was put in there a few years ago, and that's about, 72 units, right? It's similar to this new development that's being done. And I do want to give David and his team a tip of the cap, because I think they've been very communicative throughout the process, and really they've been quite professional. But really, I come to you kind of as a concerned homeowner, right? Because with that multifamily dwelling right sort of behind where I live, and then with this new proposal for the new development directly across the street from me, I'm kind of sandwiched, in that, and so it's a bit concerning. And so some of the things that come to mind to me that I wanted to kind of bring up today and just get y'all's insight on was, number one, certain stipulations, the way that I understand it, is that there's to be no access to Kenview Road as part of the development, Kenview Street, I should say. And so along with that, I guess my thought is, and my concern is something like that fixed, I guess, when it's decided upon? Is that sort of like stamped that that's truly not going to ever change as part of this development? Or is this something that could ever be adjusted and, you know, a year or 2 years down the line when they go to develop the property, that all of a sudden things change and they decide to put an access on Kenview? I speak for most of my neighbors who I've, you know, discussed this with, this matter, is that it would, you know, really change the community quite a bit if an access was placed on Kenview Road. So I just want to, Kenview Street. So I just want to kind of confirm and establish that that's not going to happen. The other thing is that, you know, with a development like this and being, again, directly across the street from the development, really hoping to sort of get some clarity on the buffer of privacy trees or any sort of trees that can be left on the property, just because clearing out all that land will just change the dynamic of the neighborhood quite a bit. So that's a second point of concern I wanted to bring up is can we sort of establish certain, you know, rules that say, okay, well, they need to plant X. I know there's some, you know, regulations that are already in place for this, but as far as planning and establishing a privacy border in place to kind of preserve the community as much as possible, that's the second thing I wanted to bring up. And then thirdly, you know, there's Muir's Chapel, as you guys, I'm sure you're very aware, is a highly trafficked road as is. And kind of the suggestion or the thing that I wanted to communicate was to possibly try to get a stoplight, you know, put in when that community is put in on Muir's Chapel, partly because, you know, where Market and Muir's Chapel meet, also where Spring Garden is, it really has potential to be a nice pedestrian area, but the challenge is that the traffic is very quick through there. And if there were a stoplight established there, I think it opens the door for a lot more pedestrian traffic and a lot more business that can be brought to some of the local, you know, businesses in the area. So that's a sort of something I wanted to toss out there as a possibility. And I'm not sure, you know, exactly all the how exactly to approach all this. So I just wanted to hop on and express some of those concerns and just say my piece there. The last thing I'd bring up is related to water drainage. In addition to kind of being surrounded by two multifamily units, kind of developments on both sides, if this were to pass, my property is also sort of below from an elevation standpoint, both properties. And the current you know, development that's there, the water drainage from that apartment complex actually actively drains onto my property. And that's a bit of an existing concern. And since this new development is also elevated to the north of my own property, the concern is a similar one, that, you know, water drainage, and if you know, if there were any issues there and how that drains out and things like that. And so pretty much all I got. Thank you for your time. Thanks for hearing me out on these concerns, and you know, interested if anyone has any feedback on those items.
Thank you. We are going to give Ms. Hodiern a 5-minute rebuttal where she can answer some of your questions.
Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, members of the council. I appreciate you hearing our item tonight. Amanda Hodiern, 804 Green Valley Road here in Greensboro. I'm here tonight on behalf of the property owner and the applicant, which is SC Midtown LLC. I have with me here David Sloop, who is the principal of that organization. So I'll be brief and address Mr. Fitzgerald's questions. Appreciate his engagement tonight. Of course, as he mentioned, we have been talking to him throughout, so happy to help alleviate any of those ongoing clarifications that he needs. Wanted to show this. As he alluded to, we will not have access on Kenview Street, which is at the bottom of your screen here, running horizontally. And we don't have that as a zoning condition because it's preempted by your GDOT staff. This plan here, of course, we're at zoning, which is about land use, so site plan comes later. But we did take the step of vetting this site plan through the TRC sketch plan review process. And through that dialogue, we learned that GDOT would not approve an access point on Kenview Street. So there would just be no driveway permit issued there. Certainly 30, 40 years from now, if this site redevelops and a new plan comes through, GDOT and whoever sits here at that time will have the opportunity to evaluate if some access might be appropriate then. But, in terms of this project and this proposal, GDOT has already made its ruling that that would not be appropriate. So I think that creates a nice effect for the residents of Kenview. And when we had our neighborhood engagement process, we heard a lot of gratitude and appreciation that Kenview would not be accessed here, because that creates a situation where this neighborhood, or this development rather, is oriented and fronts out to Murray's Chapel. And it really does kind of maintain Kenview as separated from that to the extent it can be. You see here that we have a required setback off of Kenview. I believe Mr. Kirkman can clarify that there's also streetscape yard plantings required there. So certainly we will be planting that and creating as nice of a visual aesthetic there as possible. That's certainly a common interest that we have with Mr. Fitzgerald, to create the nice, maintain the nice view that Kenview has, and also for our future residents to make their living experience nice. This is a very desirable part of Greensboro. If we look back here at a zoomed out zoning map, we see at the intersection of West Market and Murray's Chapel, this is one of the most thriving activity centers we have in the city. We have a lot of commercial intensity here. You see it emanate out to the office development as we move north, and then you see this band of multifamily just north of that. So this is a very textbook, tried and true planning land use pattern, that this case is really a nice infill case that just drops right into that. With the conditions that we reviewed, the RM26 is really more effectively an RM20 request, which is very compatible with everything you see here, and just creates that nice step down back into the single family. And it also creates housing opportunity at multiple different types for people who need to live near these goods and services that exist in the activity centers. So we certainly appreciate the people who already live there and the existing neighborhoods. That's why we try to be sensitive in the ways that I've described. But I believe that on balance, this is a very reasonable and balanced request.
Thank you.
Stormwater, you see here, we have a stormwater management device proposed, as we have to, regardless of how this plan may change. We will have to treat, both capture and treat and release at the pre-development rate our stormwater. So the drainage issues, if not improved, certainly won't be exacerbated with this development. I'm happy to answer any further questions.
Any questions for Ms. Hodier? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we have to see Mr. Fitzgerald, did you have any closing comments?
No closing comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to close the public hearing? Moved by Mrs. Hoffman, seconded by Dr. Wells. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes 9-0. Any comments, motions, questions on this item?
Move the item if there are no questions.
So that was been moved. We do need a statement of consistency. Mrs. Hoffman.
The Greensboro City Council believes that its action to approve the rezoning request for the property at 401 Muirs Chapel Road and 4900 Kenview Street from R3 residential single family to CDRM 26 conditional district residential multifamily 26 to be consistent with the adopted GSO 2040 comprehensive plan, and considers the action taken to be reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan's future built form map and future land use map. The proposed CDRM 26 zoning district permits uses which fit the context of the surrounding area and limits negative impacts on the adjacent properties. The request is reasonable due to the size, physical conditions, and other attributes of the area. It will benefit the property owner and surrounding community, and approval is in the public interest.
Thank you. And that was seconded by Ms. Abuzawader. All in favor, say aye.
Seconded by Goldie Wells.
Dr. Wells? Okay. Moved by Mrs. Hoffman, seconded by Dr. Wells, and that passed unanimously. Now we will move on to the public hearing to receive public comment on the recommended
Madam
fiscal year.
Mayor, I'm sorry, can you confirm the vote on that for me, please?
Say that again.
Could you confirm the vote on that for me, please?
That was 9-0. Receive public comment on the recommended fiscal year 2023-2024 annual budget. We do have two people signed up specifically to speak about the budget, Drew Nix and Billy McNeil. If they could come to the window side of the room. There were a couple of people who signed up as a speaker from the floor who mentioned budget or property taxes. Bryce Carter, Jason Hicks, Linda Lee, and Shakita. Are the first two speakers in the room Drew Dix or Billy McNeil? If you would give us your name.
Well, for the record, I'm Bill McNeil. Thank you. My daughters and my girlfriend call me Billy, so I'm
okay.
But I reside at 1014 Gretchen Lane, Unit D in Greensboro. I'm here speaking as part of the Solar Power Now coalition that advocates for clean, renewable energy throughout the community. Our coalition was delighted when you passed a resolution in 2019 calling for a transition to 100% renewable energy for city operations. You delighted us, citizens, voters, and taxpayers again when the city manager hired Dr. Doris Dean as the city's chief sustainability officer. And then again, you delighted us when you approved the city's strategic energy plan, laying out how to pursue that goal and that transition. But our delight turned to dismay and disappointment when we looked at the proposed budget. When we saw scarcely little in the proposed budget to fund the initial steps that would turn the strategic energy plan into a reality, from paper into action. Now, there may have been something in the budget proposal that we're not seeing. Our coalition partners were curious and perplexed by some language in the city manager's otherwise excellent budget proposal that talks about reorganizing and realigning the Office of Sustainability with other functions of the city. We're curious about what that means in practical terms. Will it diminish Dr. Doris Dean's authority to carry out and pursue the objectives of the plan, or will it in some way accelerate the progress toward the goals that you set? I'm asking you, please reassure us that it will create coordination, better coordination, and build momentum. For the climate crisis is not going to go away. Every action matters. Every organization, every city, county, state needs to be on the task of pursuing how we're going to address climate crisis. Please show us some evidence in the budget that you are serious about pursuing this goal and getting on with addressing the climate crisis coming at us. So thank you very much.
Mr. McNeil, I just wanted to thank you very much for bringing that up. I know that we had just approved this strategic energy plan, less than a year ago, and that we are building into all of our departments the things that they need to follow. So you may not see it like on a line item, but I want to assure you, and as you know, I'm the liaison to the Community Sustainability Council, that we are keeping an eye on what we can do in each department. So I just wanted to assure you. All right.
Thank you. Drew Dix.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Drew Dix from Greensboro. Triad Stage, Greensboro's downtown professional theater has gone quiet, dark until further notice. I don't know the board of directors, but I'm sure they're dutifully considering all options for survival, and they may have already reached out to the town. As a member of the Professional Stage Actors Union, I've been inside my share of professional regional theaters, and the Pearl Theater is a versatile, top-notch facility. It's a great audience experience and appears to be a great place to work in. The transformation of the Montgomery Ward building was a great service to the town. But their pause in production made me really sit up and take notice, not only about the loss of a cultural centerpiece beyond the issue of just a theater in limbo. On one level, Triad Stage is simply another struggling business suffering from a lack of capital resources and the ravages of COVID. It's unrealistic for the city to simply rescue every business in peril. On another level, well, it's all about priorities, because I believe that healthy and thriving arts institutions should be a social investment no different than the support the town gives for our fantastic library system and park system, or the levy on our vehicles to pay for our wonderful roads. You are all working very hard to keep Greensboro strong and growing. You're to be commended for helping us compete with other communities for businesses and jobs, new residents, and new tax revenues. But when people look for new places to live, they look beyond their paychecks for engagement and stimulation. And what we have now is enviable. It really is. Our festivals, homegrown visual arts programs, dance, the symphony, our community theater, along with all the city groups, agencies, and fantastic, hardworking boards that support them all. But a loss of an institution like a live professional theater would be come at a great cost to us culturally and leave us at a tremendous disadvantage as a community. And of course, there's the Tanger Center, an impressive addition to our town, which imports Broadway touring productions and other out-of-town programs. And the one thing I can't help but note is that, it was tens of millions in town bond debt that supported this creation. And if I understand correctly, Triad Stage receives just a tiny fraction of its budget from the city efforts at Arts Greensboro. Now, I'm not comparing the two organizations, other to say then that both are needed. Nor am I naively suggesting that the town should fund all of its arts organizations in the same way. I do just want to implore the council to explore every option available in order to support our local professional theater that employs largely local artists and actors. And I want to recognize, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
I agree with so much of what you said, but there was no there's no bond money.
Okay.
And that helped fund.
My mistake.
the
Quick
Tanger
web
Center.
search, and that's what I came up with. Okay. Thank you.
So if you've signed up as a speaker from the floor, but you're really here to talk about the budget, please come to the podium and give us your name.
Mine's kind of big. Is that okay?
Well, you're going to have to choose. Yeah.
I mean, I'll come back then. How about
Well,
that?
you get one opportunity.
Okay, I'll speak. I'll speak. So first, Councilman Thaney gets a break tonight. So good evening, Council. My name is Jason Hicks. In spite of the words of some, I'm here in solidarity with the normal people that understand inclusion, respect, dignity for all are the only way forward. Solidarity means standing against the lunatics that want to mask racism, homophobia, transphobia, bigotry as First Amendment protected free speech. By upholding the termination, the city manager sends a message that bigotry has no place in this city. While we appreciate the city manager's decision on the appeal, we still need something more. The budget needs work. We need a $20 an hour minimum for our city workers. Could each of you imagine having to provide for your families just on your city council salary? Likely not. The city manager's salary is $312,000 a year. 12% of that salary is more than some of our city workers make. The onus isn't just on the city manager. Council, you all have a responsibility to work through this budget and get the city workers' wages to $20 an hour. If you can fight for increases for the police department, you can fight for our city workers.
going to ask if we can save our applause. We have almost 40 speakers signed up to speak. I will say that the zoning meeting had a really interesting thing that they did after the STRs, and that was when somebody said something they liked, they gave one clap. So how about if we try that, and we might be able to get through the agenda a little quicker. Our next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Linda Lee, and I'm here on behalf of the city tax increase for Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm speaking on behalf of the citizens of Greensboro, and particularly the retired senior citizens of Greensboro. I feel that the property tax right now is inappropriate for us. We just had a big increase in our county tax and a big increase in our insurance, and a lot of us are on fixed incomes, and I understand that the police department and the fire department does need an increase, but we feel like this is not the time. You know, some people have not had increases since 1990s that's retired, and I feel like that I'm speaking for basically retired citizens too. We feel like we want to continue to live in our homes, but with taxes increasing as quickly and much as, you know, you all are asking for, some citizens may have to give up their homes because they can't afford it. And so I stand here on behalf of all the citizens of Greensboro, particularly the retired senior citizens, that we would like for you all to see if you can find the funds somewhere else. And we thank you for all that you do, and we do want our police officers and firefighters to be paid, but we think, you know, property taxes is not the way right now. So we ask that you all could have some little empathy upon us. And I thank you for all what you do. Thanks.
Thank you. Love it. Thank you. Our next speaker, if you could give us your name.
My name is Shakita Hayes, and I'm here on behalf of the city taxes as well. Me being as a working person, single parent, homeowner, it's very, very hard for us, being the people that we are, as trying to work and maintain a household. Then we got everybody else want money from everywhere else, insurance companies, the water people, the city people, everybody. Not saying that there's anything wrong with it, because everybody should get an increase, but I can't get an increase, and that hurts me in my pocket, in my home, and my children, because I have to take care of my kids, and that's my priority. And I hope that you all could consider and think about people that's working and trying to make it and maintain, because I think you all are shooting at so many things at one time. Maybe if we can do one by one, it could help. I mean, you know, you just take your time, because there's some things that the city of Greensboro still needs to do that hasn't been completed. Things that's uncompleted, and I see it, and it's not fair. So my priority is, if you all want increase, then we as the people should see that what we increasing for. And hopefully, you know, I can get an increase too. Can y'all ask my job to give me an increase? And let me keep food on my table, because I can't get government assistance. I have to do it myself. And I'm proud to be able to, but I need you all to understand the working person point of view. It's not easy. Thank you, and that's all I had to say.
So is there anybody else? Bryce Carter? Bryce, are you here? Anybody who signed up as a speaker from the floor, but really it was budget related? Now is the time for you to speak, or you'll just be grouped in with the rest of the speakers from the floor. Okay. We will now move on to the speakers of the floor section of our agenda. I do want to start with a statement. I am aware that some speakers are here this evening to talk about the dismissal of a fire department employee, It is important to know that by North Carolina statute and included in our city charter, Chapter 4, Article 2, Section 4.11, and Article 3, Section 4.21, the Greensboro City Council has 2 employees, the city manager and the city attorney. All other employees report to the city manager or the city attorney as defined in the organizational chart. North Carolina Statute 160A-168 governs privacy of employee personnel records. It limits public disclosure of certain personnel records. The Greensboro City Council does not have access to employee records except for what can be disclosed to the general public, which includes if a disciplinary action was a dismissal, a copy of the written notice of the final decision of the municipality setting forth the specific acts or omissions that are the basis for the dismissal. A letter of termination is a public record. It is also important to know that the City of Greensboro has strict social media policies. The fire department has specific directives that govern social media interaction. Directive 3.22, Section 7 is clear that personal social media posts are prohibited from forms of speech that ridicule, malign, disparage, or otherwise express bias against any race, any religion, or any other protected class of individuals. The directive also states public employees and department personnel are cautioned that their speech, either on or off duty, may not necessarily be protected speech under the First Amendment. The City Council and the City of Greensboro is dedicated to promoting an environment that is free of discrimination, bias, and bullying for our residents and our employees. We have a great regard for the residents of this city, and as such, we hold our public servants to a high standard, given the great responsibility that they have in supporting all of our community. So we will move on to our speakers, and the first 3 are Joseph Barbagallo. Thank you. John Danzer and Billy Belcher, if you could move to the window side of the room. Barbagallo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, esteemed council. My name is Joe Barbagallo. I am a proud citizen of my adopted city of Greensboro. I say adopted because I am a native New Yorker, as my subtle accent probably has given away. And I was there when the towers came down in September.
Hold it a minute.
What happened? Uh-oh.
Individual the help they need?
Fail.
Oh, goodness. Oh, no. Oh, my goodness.
Thank you for all of you who have helped her. Thank you.
Mr. Barbagallo?
Ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I was there when the towers fell, and it affected every American. New Yorkers didn't have exclusivity to how we felt. But I was also there to see the reverence that we held our first responders in, specifically our firefighters. As I was coming here today, I had comments prepared. When I got to the stairs to walk up here and I saw what was going on out front, I decided my comments needed to change And I just decided I'm going to put away the paper and I'm going to speak to you the way that we need to speak, just like people, just from the heart. And I'm going to do that right now. I'm the father of 5. My oldest is, I'm proud to say, a firefighter. And I'm here, you know, I had a reporter ask me when they saw my shirt, "Are you here for Dustin?" My answer was, "Yes, but I'm really here for all firefighters." And their response was, "What do you say to the parents of transgender and LGBTQ?" And what that made me realize is that we have an implied rhetoric. And I know the council, Madam Mayor, you were eloquent in reading exactly what the council's responsible for. And Mr. City Manager, she also noted what you were responsible for. And I will say that we need to stop the rhetoric. Yes, I'm here because the FT family is one I'm proud to be part of. And I would stand up for any family member the same as anyone here would. But the rhetoric about if I'm here for this, I must be against that, it's got to stop. Because in addition to being a father and a citizen of the Greensboro city, I'm a Christian. And I want to make it clear to everyone that hears me and sees me today, I'm ordered to love you. You don't have to believe me. You don't even have to love me back. I don't care who you pray to, what group you're part of, if you're a man, a woman, otherwise, old or young. It's not about hate. It's the opposite. They're carrying signs outside calling our firefighters fascists. You have the power to unite. You're stronger than you think, and we depend on you. You're right, you can't change what happened to that man. But you do have the power to quench the fires. And to the journalists in the room taking pictures and making notes, you have the power to report responsibly. Don't make this an us versus them. Don't further the divide between us. If you really want to solve something here today, figure out how we come together. Facebook? Really? My children worry about Facebook. Come on, guys, we're better than that. We're better than that. You don't agree with what he posts? Scroll. Thank you for the time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Dantzler. I've lived in Greensboro for 11 years and the Greater Triad area for my entire life. I'm here to comment on the firing of Dustin Jones from the Greensboro Fire Department. My first job was at Food Line when I was 16 years old. From the very beginning, I understood that there were certain rules for how I conducted myself. When in uniform or representing the company, I was expected to treat customers, even those who were rude to me or who I personally disliked, with respect and dignity. Now, while all labor is deserving of dignity, I think it's obvious that the Greensboro Fire Department carries a much more important responsibility than I did when I was bagging groceries. It follows that they should carry themselves with at least the same standards as a 16-year-old grocery boy. When you are a public employee, you serve the public, all of the public, including people who you may personally dislike. Free speech is your right, but when lives are in your hands, it is reasonable to interpret your speech as a reflection of your ability and your willingness to protect those people. I, for one, do not want to worry if the person protecting my transgender friends is going to give them the same care as they would give me in the same situation. I don't think that this is an unreasonable expectation for a public employee, and the city manager's decision to uphold the firing reflects a commitment to public safety that the city should exude in everything it does. Mr. Jones received ample warning, more than I would have ever gotten at Food Line, and made his priorities clear. As an adult, when you make choices, there are consequences. I also want to address the conservative protesters joining us this evening. I understand many of you are likely here at the encouragement of Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson. Here are some things that Mr. Robinson chooses to remain silent about. For nearly a decade, Greensboro has had one of the highest eviction rates in the country. Since before the pandemic, the average house price in Greensboro has increased by $79,000. 1 in 3 Guilford County school students missed 10% or more of the 2021 to 2022 academic school year. Greensboro currently has 17 food deserts, which disproportionately affect poor people and people of color. These are issues that actually affect all of us. But Mark Robinson doesn't care about them. He cares about one man's ability to post memes on Facebook. That's because Mark Robinson doesn't care about you either. I yield the remainder of my time. Thank you.
Billy Belcher, followed by Molly Blaffer, followed by Dell Stone.
Hi, I'm Billy Belcher from WHO, the Working Class and Houseless Organizing Alliance. Here to talk about this Dustin Jones situation, how the city deals with bigotry. And there's a double standard in city government. City police literally tortured to death Marcus Smith, a homeless black man, but they weren't fired. Y'all didn't fire the 20-odd cops that executed Joseph Lopez. I'm glad you fired this bigot Jones, but you should realize that killing people of color, attacking the unhoused, forcing them out of downtown is worse. When your employees post hatred online, you should fire them, but all of you should be removed for enforcing violence, literal violence, against people. Now, Mr. Jones is openly racist and transphobic, and firing him is obviously correct, but Mr. Jones is not an isolated case. There is a national movement to eradicate trans people. I don't know any other way to say it. Genocidal hatreds are being normalized in this country. Fascist ways of thinking and acting are broadly accepted. The hate from Dustin Jones, the hatred and the transphobia that led the Lieutenant Governor Robinson to rally people here tonight, the wave of transphobia that is in state house after state house across this country, the attack on abortion rights, on women in general, the never-ending police violence that y'all sanction, the increasing criminalization of the unhoused, which y'all sanction. This is all a single movement. Your anti-houseless policies, your police brutality, and you're all guilty. So I support the firing of the bigot, Dustin Jones, but everybody needs to understand that the entire city council is actually guilty of far worse. And I would tell all of you that nobody in this government, although they did the right thing in this one case, is actually going to defend you against this wave of hatred and violence. It is on us to organize ourselves, or else we're going to die. Thank you.
Molly Blaffer, followed by Dell Stone, followed by Louis Medina.
If you can't hear me, just tell me to speak up. But hi, my name is Molly. My pronouns are she, her. I moved to Greensboro almost 5 years ago. I'm a member of Guilford for All, Greensboro Revolutionary Socialists, and I'm a clinic escort. I believe a community where everyone should have access to what they need is what we need to be safe. I'm here to speak in support of the city's decision to terminate the fire chief for his homophobic and transphobic online comments. Someone who is in a position of power in an area of public safety should not only respect everyone they serve, but much less not be promoting hateful speech. Worse off, can't seem to learn or adjust after being given multiple warnings, a privilege many do not get. Freedom of speech does not mean you are free of consequences, especially when the speech is targeted at communities who already deal with immense violence just for being who they are. By the way, for the first speaker, this isn't about rhetoric or Facebook. Queer people and trans people are not ideas, they're people. They are people that Dustin clearly had no care for keeping safe. Imagine what could happen if everyone in this meeting, instead of coming here to ask for him to be reinstated, spent their time supporting the city workers, getting higher minimum wage, hazard pay, and other demands the UE 150 has shared. Bullies, because that's what he is, like Mark Robinson, who are proudly homophobic, would rather convince crowds to support his dangerous beliefs than support community members in getting what they need to survive. Homophobia, transphobia, racism, and all forms of systemic oppression are tools of capitalism to keep us divided, and that's what we're seeing here. People who came out to support city workers and to support the decision to terminate the fire chief know that we all deserve a life where we are safe, given dignity and respect. Thank you.
I'm Del Stone with WOA, the Working Class and Houses Organizing Alliance. So what we are seeing in Greensboro recently is just the latest and the most local development of a trend that is evident across the state and this country. We see bigots trying to divide the working class and police people's individual identities, passing laws and enacting policies that directly attack marginalized groups. They are specifically targeting people of color and LGBTQ people, and most specifically, trans people. That Dustin Jones, a city employee, was able to engage in a years-long pattern of hateful public posts against marginalized people, in addition to a long list of alleged misbehaviors that directly endangered others, speaks to the unacceptable tolerance that city officials have for bigotry. This is already evident in the behavior officials tolerate from police and, by extension, from themselves. Firing Jones was a necessary step, but the city manager does not deserve a pat on the back for doing the bare minimum. Jones was already allowed to engage in years of misconduct, including actions violating the privacy and trust of residents he was supposed to protect, posting images of houses online. He has been allowed to amass a campaign of support, raising thousands of dollars and inflaming other reactionaries to his victimization, which is blatantly false. Jones has plenty of other income opportunities on the side, by the way, and he doesn't need anyone's sympathy, much less their support. He owns a dozen homes in Guilford County alone, and I'm sure his landlording is making him plenty of money. He's already lawyered up, and despite the incompetence of his attorneys who don't seem to understand basic public records law, Dustin Jones will be just fine. Can anyone say the same for the marginalized people that he has put at risk with his hateful, fear-mongering messaging online? No, they cannot, because we live in a capitalist system that time and again prioritizes those with wealth, with privilege and power at the detriment of those without. This is not an issue of First Amendment rights. This is an issue of basic human rights. The right to be who we are, to love who we love. People who are endangered on account of basic aspects of their identity are and will continue to be at risk, so long as folks tiptoe around bigotry and give genocidal talking points any place in the public square.
Louis Medina, followed by Renee Saxon, followed by Eric Griffin.
Hello, my name is Louis Medina. I'm with Working Class and Houseless Organizing Alliance. I don't actually have a prepared speech, but luckily the person that was defending Dustin Jones gave me some inspiration. One thing he mentioned that is he's a father. Well, I'm a father too, of two, and I would rather raise my children in a world not filled with bigots like Dustin Jones. I would like to know that my kids could identify safely and live the life they would like without knowing that people like this would be rallied to attack them, and that they are being attacked. People are attacking reproductive rights. People are attacking trans rights. They've been doing it forever, and now we see an outgrowth. So when you say we'll just scroll through, well, the truth is that y'all don't come out for police brutality. You don't come out for the fact that rising houselessness is coming up, right? You don't come out for when people are massively evicted. But when one bigot gets fired, for some reason you all came to city council. So when you say that there's a divide in the city, it has already happened in this country. It has already happened. And so for city council, right, and your kind, right, I choose you pick a different side. It's very clear we're going to win. We're going to win. Now, that's for your side, because clearly y'all a bunch of cowards and you're weak. Not many of y'all showed up today. It was a good call, honestly, right? For city council, or not for city council, y'all don't have any power, apparently, right? Because that's why you don't do anything about reproductive rights or defend trans rights. While in the South, there is an emergent fascist movement. So I'll talk to the city manager. Thank you for firing that guy. It should have happened a long time ago. But let's not stop there, right? Why don't we start firing all the bigots? Because that's the type of society I want to live in. When someone attacks marginalized people, right, then they are fired, terminated, maybe put to justice. We've got multiple cops killed Marcus Smith, right, Duke Crenshaw, that y'all did nothing about. And in fact, I don't know if you noticed, I've told you for 5 years, there is a rising houseless population that y'all, if you know it or not, are openly harassing. And last time I checked, that is a predominantly black population, right, and largely LGBTQ. So, you know, instead of like flagrantly pretending to have principles, actually start having them and building a more equitable world. Because that is what all these people, if they agree with me politically or not, want. I'm done.
Renee Saxon, followed by Eric Griffin, followed by Juno Rondell.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Renee Saxon.
I have proudly been a Greensboro resident for over 28 years. I'm also an executive committee member of the Guilford Green Foundation and LGBTQ Center, and on the board of directors. I'm here to express my full support for our city manager's decision to deny the appeal of Dustin Jones' termination. Mr. Jones was a Greensboro firefighter captain. He posted many anti-LGBTQ and discriminatory public comments on his social media page, while boasting at the same time his position with the fire department and the city. He continued to make discriminatory and offensive comments after repeated warnings, feedback, and counseling from his superiors. He was consequently and rightfully terminated. As a member of this community, I believe that it's important to uphold inclusive values and respect for all individuals, regardless of their sexual orientation, their gender identity, their race, or religion. The comments made by Mr. Jones were not only offensive and hurtful, but they also go against the principles of equality and fairness that our city stands for. They were in direct violation of the fire department's written directive on personal social media policies. Again, despite that feedback, despite the coaching, despite the warning, these despicable and discriminatory comments continued. It is crucial that we hold our public servants to a high standard of conduct and ensure that they are representing our community in a positive and respectful manner. Mr. Jones repeatedly failed to do this. I commend our city manager for taking swift action to address this issue and for sending a clear message that discrimination will not be tolerated in our city. His leadership and commitment to upholding our values are greatly appreciated. I also want to thank our mayor and our city council members, each and every one of you, for your dedication to our community and for your efforts and stand to create a safe and inclusive environment for all of us. I respectfully request that we not bend or bow to any attempts by conservative groups or others to reverse that stand of inclusion and diversity in our city. Thank you very much.
The next speaker, please. Eric Griffin or Juno Rondell. If you would give us your name for the record.
My name is Juno Rondelli, not Rondell, Rondelli. And today I am speaking on behalf of the Triangle/Greensboro Club of the Communist Party USA on recent actions made by ex-Captain Dustin Jones of the Fire Department. We as a party condemn all the actions that were made towards the trans and BIPOC communities by ex-Captain Dustin Jones, and we also approve of the termination of ex-Captain Dustin Jones by the city manager. However, this situation is concerning to us on the tolerance of this city's leadership. So far, in 2023, 491 anti-trans bills have been introduced in 47 states, as recorded by the American Civil Liberties Union. That's about 3 times more bills than the last 4 years combined. The attacks in the nation on trans life is disturbing and disgusting. As ex-Captain Dustin Jones has made very apparent, he believes this termination was a violation of his First Amendment rights of free speech. However, he violated the fire department's social media policy and was rightfully fired, thanks to our city manager. But the dangers that it possesses to let bigotry fester amongst the civil servants is disturbing. 61.7% of the people in Greensboro are Black, Indigenous, or people of color, and about 4% of the people in North Carolina as a whole are trans. We as a party demand there to be an end of the genocidal rallies in our streets, an end of the attacks on trans people, and an end of this council standing by while people's lives are on the line. Thank you.
Thank you. Jethro Rust, Steve Wall, Adrian Harris.
Hi, my name is Jethro Russ. Like you said, I'm just speaking for myself. Just from what I've seen, just living in Greensboro for the past couple of years, recently moved here, we have just people dying. And you know, when I first moved here, engaging with the community on a local level, I like everything that I see and the people that I've met, but I want to feel safe here, and I appreciate that the city manager has fired Dustin Jones. From what I've read, he violated people's privacy. He expressed open contempt for transgender people and the Black Lives Matter movement. And that is not someone I want to trust with my life in an emergency situation. So I applaud the city manager for this decision. I hope that the attorney can take the opportunity to hold our public institutions accountable when there seems to be gross circumstances of misuse of, I guess, public force. That's all I have to say.
Steve Wall, followed by Adrian Harris, followed by Jennifer Rupp.
Hello. I'm trying not to be sarcastic, but when I grow up and be perfect like all of y'all, I'll start calling out everybody else's imperfections.
I'm sorry, we can't hear you if you're not speaking into
I
the
said, when
microphone.
I grow up and be perfect like all of you that are lashing out at him, I'll point out everybody's imperfections like you're doing. I don't hear hate from anybody except his opposition. Getting loud, yelling, screaming, comparing him to murdering people. Anyway, task at hand. My name's Steve Wall. I'm here on behalf of and in defense of firefighter Dustin Jones. He was fired for posting a meme on his Facebook page. When I read the meme, I was shocked, not because of its nature, but because I saw nothing but truth in the meme. Would you rather him lie about being straight? Anyway, I saw nothing that expressed hate, and I saw nothing that said anything negative about any person nor group. Although Dustin's firing stems from a direct attack on his First Amendment right of free speech, there is, in my opinion, a much more important matter at hand. Every single person in this room, white, black, Hispanic, male, female, heterosexual, homosexual, trans, etc., including you, if any of you were trapped in a burning house tonight, Dustin Jones, without hesitation, would rush into that burning house to save your life. You don't want somebody like that saving your life? Yeah, you do. Wait till you're on fire. You ever been on fire? I have. You don't want him saving your life. He doesn't come beforehand. He comes after getting a call if somebody's in danger. Hear me when I tell you that he would leave his home in the middle of the night, his wife and his children, knowing that he might lose his life, knowing that he might leave his wife without a husband and leave his children without a father to save your lives. And you're worried about a harmless, truthful meme? How many of you would do what he does? How many of you would come to my house and save my 5-year-old if it's on fire, knowing you might lose your life? Stand up. I pray it never happens to you or me or my son. Just so you know, those are the people that were offended by his comments that you supported by firing him.
I will remove anybody else with an outburst like that. And Mr. City Attorney, when there is an outburst like that, I think we should be able to not allow them in the next meeting. He certainly made sure he had his 3 minutes. Mr. Wall?
Thank you. There were once teenagers who have become adults and parents because Dustin saved their lives. There were once infants who have become teenagers because Dustin saved their lives. He has dedicated his life to his family and to saving lives through fighting fires and through simply going into action when the need arises. Lives will be lost, without a doubt, if you proceed with his termination as a Greensboro firefighter. And I ask you, what if one of those lives is one of your children or your mother? Even if only one life is lost in the future due to Dustin's absence, that's one too many. And that lost life will be on you, counsel.
Thank you.
I'm not done. And all of you who
Yeah,
who
you are.
oppose a man who loves his wife and children. Look, I was interrupted by a bunch of rude people.
And we stopped the clock.
Dustin, if you hate me, I don't care.
All
If
right,
you say
please
ugly
leave.
things to me, I don't care. The fact that you'll save my 5-year-old son tonight.
Okay, moving on. You know, we asked earlier that speakers would respect the speakers, and that doesn't matter what side you're on. We have many speakers left to go, and everybody deserves to be heard. Adrian Harris. Mr. Harris.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share tonight. I'm here to promote nothing but God's love for everybody. I want to say that I have seen so much disrespect on one side that it troubles me. It really does. I am a native of Greensboro. I've lived here for 71 years, and I have never seen such hate that is spewing out of your hearts. The Bible says that God is love, and he that loveth not knoweth not God. I want to say that we should have freedom of speech for everybody. My father fought in World War II. My son was in the Coast Guard. My son-in-law was a captain in the Navy. He fought for the freedom of every person in here and gave that right for freedom of speech. That's what our country was founded on. I'm not saying that you've got to agree with me. I may not agree with you. But you know what? I still love you. I don't hold any animosity toward anybody. I love everybody. I have no room in my heart of any hate for anyone. I've known Yvonne Johnson and Goldie Wells since the 90s, and we've always had a wonderful working relationship. But I am just so deeply disturbed about the hate that is just spewing forth tonight. Why don't we do this? Why don't we say that the First Amendment right for free speech is for everybody as long as it does not lead to violence? When it leads to violence, it is no longer freedom of speech. You can hate me, you can love me, it doesn't really matter. I will still love you regardless of what you think and what you believe. And I went back and I studied this, that the Supreme Court ruled that First Amendment right to free speech for public employees relating to public matters is protected by the First Amendment. This was reinforced by case Pickering versus Board of Education in 1968, and it has not been overturned since then. So based upon that, all of us have freedom of speech as long as we don't commit violence toward anybody. You may disagree with me, I may disagree with you, but that don't mean that we've got to hate each other. I don't think that Dustin meant any hate by what he posted. You may believe that he did, but from what I know of him, I've never seen that in his life. I've never seen him hate anybody. Folks, why don't we do this? Why don't we just say, let's bury our differences, and even though we disagree, still love each other and care about each other. Thank you so much.
Hello. My name's Jennifer Roop. I'm here on behalf of Guilford Green Foundation and LGBTQ Center located here in Greensboro. I'm also here on the behalf of the thousands of people that we serve each year. I'm here to say that we support the city's decision to remove any employee who's contributing to a homophobic and transphobic atmosphere. I want to especially thank city leadership for not backing down in the face of hateful anti-LGBTQ rhetoric that has come out of this situation. Greensboro's diversity is a big factor in what drives this region's growth. I, like many others, came to Greensboro as a college student to attend one of the great institutions of higher education here. I stayed because this is a place where I felt valued and I felt seen, and it's a place that I wanted to build a life. Valuing diversity is more than getting a 100 on the Human Rights Campaign Municipal Index. It's more than having a city-sponsored trans task force. And it's more than just supporting Pride Month in city communications. The true test of your commitment to creating a diverse, equitable, and inclusive city is how you all show up when it's not all rainbows and parades. It's doing the right thing when the right thing isn't easy. It means holding people accountable for actions that violate the written policies and codes of conduct, because freedom of speech is not freedom from consequences. There are pivotal points in time when individuals, communities, and society must decide which side of history we will be on, because history has its eyes on us tonight. Thank you for being on the right side of history. Thank you.
My name is Sarah Blackwood. I live on Friendly Farms Road in Greensboro. And I've been at this podium several times over the years, usually to beg you for something I think the city needs or to complain about something the city did that I didn't like. But I'm more than pleased to stand here today to tell you, job well done. Thank you for recognizing that a city employee who continually disparages and disrespects certain communities cannot be trusted to maintain public trust and improve people's quality of life. Based on the behavior of former Greensboro Fire Captain Dustin Jones, I feel 0% confident that he would treat every person with the dignity and care that they deserve. I would not feel safe if I were in need and a person like this were responsible for providing me with services. In addition, I do not believe that he would safely or respectfully serve any of my family or friends who might not meet his standards for being a person worthy of assistance. Mr. Jones does not seem to comprehend why his behavior is highly problematic and harmful, and this ignorance is telling. If a city employee does not have a basic understanding of the appropriate way to treat their fellow humans, then it is inadvisable that they be permitted to have any power over their safety and well-being. Certain folks seem to be of the opinion that the city is penalizing Mr. Jones for simply talking about being straight. I appreciate that the city recognizes that his words and actions exceed simply mentioning his sexual orientation. Instead, they veer into the territory of villainizing anyone who does not conform to his idea of what is normal and appropriate. And they trivialize the oppression, discrimination, and violence that our society has imposed on these folks for centuries. I have high hopes that the new fire captain will have a more compassionate and humane perspective, and I hope that the talented folks that are still employed with the Greensboro Fire Department will have full access to any diversity training and professional development that they need to ensure that every person receives the respect they deserve. And Mr. City Manager, we all just found out how much money you make, and I think we're paying you good enough to find somebody who's not homophobic and transphobic to work for us. And to the gentleman who just stood here and quoted 1 John 4:7 and 8, I do not think that Mr. Jones's actions were loving in any way, and I'm pretty sure Jesus would have been ashamed of him. Thank you.
Well, and then I want to give a last call for Eric Griffin.
He's not able to make it tonight.
Excuse me?
Eric Griffin's not able to make it tonight.
Okay, thank you. So you are followed by Ashley King and Ryan Smith.
Thank you. I'm gonna be easy on y'all. Okay. So, evening, council. My name's Terrell Dungy. I'm a steering committee member with Guilford for All and a member of the LGBT community here in Greensboro. Just want to commend y'all, the city, in the firing of Dustin Jones from the Greensboro Fire Department for his homophobic and transphobic opinions online. As a queer male that cares deeply for the city and its people, it's so important to me that we have public servants that make every one of us feel safe and respected. Dustin's posts and actions and response and lack of accountability for his actions are not those of someone who makes me feel safe. Our safety as a city and a community and fostering a community of belonging is more important than some guy's desire to spout hateful things on the internet. That's why when word spread of Dustin's actions and that the state's own Lieutenant Governor, Mark Robinson, who is also very publicly and vocally an opponent of queer and trans rights, was calling on his supporters to come to the city this evening in defense of Dustin's hate speech and bigotry, several of our leaders with Guilford for All, community partners, and myself did what we do best. We organized. Spending the weekend making calls, going into the community, I had a chorus concert where I used that time to actually ask folks out who are here tonight, as well as some of my chorus mates. And we wanted to pack these halls with members and supporters of the LGBTQ+ community. We wanted to show that the community supports the LGBTQ+ neighbors, and that support outmatches Dustin and his supporters' hateful rhetoric. In the political climate where trans, queer, and marginalized communities face attacks from elected representatives at the state level already, it's so important as a community that we show Greensboro refuses to promote an atmosphere where homophobia, transphobia, and racism is allowed and tolerated, and we won't have it in our city or in our city workers. As the kids say these days, Dustin, you fucked around and found out. You thought that you could use your free speech to be hateful bigot while working for the city on our taxpayer dime. You found out that being a hateful bigot on the internet would cost you your paycheck. To that man, good luck in the unemployment line, happy Pride, and thank you.
So our next speaker is Ashley King, followed by Ryan Smith. We had two people to sign up. I Am a Queen. I know that is Alana Allen's really good group. If there is a speaker who wanted to speak, you will have to give your name at the podium. And then somebody signed up as a citizen. Same thing. You can move to the podium side, but you'll have to give your name. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ashley King. I'm originally from Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and I've been living in Greensboro for about 5 years as a student at Bennett College in North Carolina A&T. I am here to support the city's decision in the recent termination of firefighter chief Dustin Jones. Have you ever wondered what it felt like to not be able to live your truth without persecution? To have your human rights jeopardized because someone does not believe you deserve the freedom to just be? Well, it is ironic, but as a country that believes in liberty and justice for all, that has happened for centuries. Dustin's actions were persecutory to queer people's freedoms because he referred to us as clowns and a freaking joke, among other insensible social media posts. I am here to support people I care about. I am here to support people who create a welcoming and supportive environment for everyone, unlike our current democracy. This environment is important for me because I do not want to be in an emergency situation and get denied the assistance I deserve because of who I choose to love. As a supporter of Guilford for All and a member of the LGBTQ community myself, it is important that policies are put in place that allow people, human beings, to come first. As many of you know, the month of June is Pride Month. Pride is not only a celebration, but it is also a protest. It's 2023. The debate of the existence of LGBTQ should not be debated. The Constitution demands lawmakers to not exclude or discriminate against people because of their personal or private beliefs. I would like to thank the City of Greensboro for living out the values of liberty and justice for all and holding Dustin Jones accountable for his words and actions. It is important that we hold the people in charge of keeping myself and my loved ones safe and not tolerate a workplace culture of homophobia and transphobia. We need to uphold a culture that believes in everybody's in, nobody's out, a community that supports people regardless of race, sex, or sexuality. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Smith, and I live here in Greensboro with my husband, Terrell. I stand tonight to show my support for the dismissal of Dustin Jones as fire captain for the City of Greensboro. For me, it is imperative that those in the field of public service keep just that in mind. They serve all of the public. As a citizen, I need assurance that those whose job it is to protect, educate, and provide for myself, my family, and my community, that they view us as having value. I do not believe that given the content and quantity of the posts that Mr. Jones has expressed on his social media page, that he is capable of doing so. In researching the situation, I found that his termination was in response not to a single post, but to a repeated pattern of deliberate and intentional attacks targeted on the LGBT+ community and other marginalized communities. I know that in my own role as a public servant, all of my social media pages are inherently linked to my identity as an educator. If I express harmful and/or disrespectful content, I am keenly aware that it reflects on not only my personal views, but on my professional views as they are linked to each other. Mr. Jones and other public servants cannot express to have all of the public's best interest in mind at work and turn on their bigotry and disdain for others unlike themselves when they punch out their time cards. Those are carried with that person. I am not convinced that Mr. Jones can universally and equitably keep his concerns for public safety separate from his personal beliefs. I also do not feel that those beliefs would not bleed into his workplace environment. As someone who has in the past worked in a hostile environment that did not value diversity, I can attest that those situations are not welcoming and inclusive, are detrimental to employee work performance and turnover. I need to know that all public servants within the City of Greensboro are at minimum valued by the organization they serve to ensure that they are at peak performance in their respective roles. This issue is not about Mr. Jones's straight pride or his ability to express so. He was not targeted as the Lieutenant Governor and his supporters claim, nor do I feel that he was erroneously released from his position. His bigotry and disdain for certain communities were on full display and do not represent the values that I, my family, our community, or this city need to promote. Thank you.
I just want to say Mr. Citizen does not want to give his name. And most people when they speak are willing to stand with their name.
Yes, ma'am. So I've heard a lot of people threaten my life as I walked in without saying a word to them. I didn't say one word. I didn't tell them how I feel. I didn't tell them anything, and they threatened my life. They called me a dirty fascist pig. I didn't say a word to them. I just said I'm here to support someone I love. That's it. That's it. I'm not expressing an opinion. I wrote 2 words down, love and freedom, and that's it. I've heard a couple dozen people calling names. I'm not going to call anybody names, even the people that said that they want to attack me. I just want to peacefully support someone who I've known for many years that I've never heard say or do a hateful thing to anybody. I would say if the city manager can find a single instance where Captain Jones did not protect a life on duty, he should be fired immediately. If we can, and so I don't believe that words that are the First Amendment, right? The words of the First Amendment that somebody posts in their private, personal Facebook page should stop them from serving based on the Greensboro City policy, which specifically talks about, Mr. City Manager, specifically talks about the city's commitment to equal opportunity in all matters regarding assignment, promotion, and other personnel actions to ensure a competent and diverse workforce. Decisions on employment are based on qualifications, experience, and suitability for the job. Compensation decisions are based on performance, and other personnel-related decisions are based on the city's core values of honesty, integrity, respect, and stewardship. I'm not aware in 16 years of any person Dustin Jones did not serve when he showed up on scene. I'm not aware of anything he has ever hated or said anything about. And so I'm going to go ahead and yield the rest of my time, but I love every single person in this room, and I don't even know you. Even the guy that ran in and yelled cuss words, the guy that threatened my life out here, I love him because I can't do anything but that. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. So is there anybody here from the I Am a Queen organization who wanted to speak? All right, so we're going to move on to a variety of other topics. Niall Payne, Shanquia Hunter, Robert Hoke. If you're going to speak, if you would move to the window side of the chamber.
Good evening, Mayor Vaughn and Council. My name is Shaniqua Hunter, and I am the General Manager for the Greensboro Chaos. The Greensboro Chaos is a woman, minority-owned, semi-pro basketball team here in Greensboro. Many of you didn't know that we had a semi-pro women's basketball team here, but I would like to thank Councilwoman Thurm because she has been a great supporter for the last 3 years of our organization. The Greensboro Chaos are the ladies standing, well, they should be standing, the ladies here. You can sit down. Our ladies are not just basketball players, but they are also professional women. They are teachers. They are members of this community. Our owner, Shatrina Smalls, a former basketball player, wanted to bring her love for the basketball to this great city of Greensboro. The Chaos was formed in December of 2019, and then we had COVID. So we had to postpone our inaugural year. But in 2021 and 2022, we were able to play in the surrounding areas of Greensboro. We were able to play in High Point, and we were able to play in Summerfield. But we are proud to announce that we will be playing in Greensboro for the 2023 season at Bennett College. As we said, our players are not just basketball players, but we're not just a basketball organization. During our downtime during COVID, and also within the last 3 years, we were also giving back to our community. We had a coat and toy drive for 2 years in which we were able to give over 100 families coats and toys during the holiday season. We also gave out free clinics to young girls that wanted to or aspired to be basketball players. So we wanted to introduce our team to you all and let you know that we are not just a team, but we are a family and we're a part of the community. Our season opener will be July 22nd, and we would love for you all to be our distinguished guests. Mayor Vaughn, you may be able to throw up the ball for tip-off that day. Thank you all again for your time, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate being in the city of Greensboro for the first year this year, and we hope to see you all and anyone else that's here in the chambers. If you want to see a real basketball game, come see the Chaos. Thank you so much.
I just like to say that having been a season ticket holder for Chaos in prior years, that this is the most fun. And Zach, if you don't take your daughter to go watch them play, you're really missing something, and your son. But it is a lot of fun. They're incredible role models for the young girls out there that are just finding their legs and finding their feet under themselves. And I want to thank you for all you do for the community and for being a presence in our community. It's a great organization and a lot of fun. What time is the game? Times, dates? 4 o'clock on the 22nd. So I would encourage everybody to come out and see them. It's a lot of fun. And you have never seen a faster moving basket. I don't care what you say. These women are fast on the court. So it's a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here.
I would personally like to say I've never heard of you, and I'm sorry that I haven't. I mean, somebody, I've never heard of you. Nobody's ever said anything about you all as a basketball team. I'm a little disturbed. I really am, because it's not for lack of would support you at all, but I don't know. So I guess I will show up. I will show up.
But we know about you now, and we'll be there
know about
July
you
22nd at Bennett College at 4 o'clock.
And we will, no, is it going to be at Bennett? Okay. We will see you there.
Thank you. Let's see. Niall Payne, Jorge Ramirez, Robert Hoke. If you're going to speak, please come to the window side of the room. We want to save time by having people on the window side of the room if you're signed up.
Excuse me. Good evening, Council. My name is Jorge Ramirez, and I come to you on behalf of representing myself. I am a local investigator, and I do a lot of personal research on certain phenomena for basically building up my background going forward into political agendas of my own. Well, for one, I'd like to distribute some information. I left some folders on behalf of a more modern way of knowing how to keep our public in a safety situation, and also you being well informed with what's going on today. There seems to be a lot of coincidences where they're launching these new technologies into outer space, being satellites. They use them as for Wi-Fi or communications. Now they've upgraded to lasers, and if you read one of the pages, there was a news article recently where lasers potentially piercing through the clouds. Well, what does that do to the human flesh or just anyone in general? There's been a lot of frequent updates on these matters, and I've spoken to the police sergeant here locally as well as the fire department, and I asked that if you have any connections with legislations or any other branch or department, that you guys maybe communicate with the matter. That way it can be brought more into the attention for not just further on, but the basic understanding of where our city's at. And I appreciate your time, and I thank you guys all for the benefit of being out here. Thank you.
Thank you. Philip Marsh, Lisa Carwile, and Christine Hoppner.
Hey there, my name is Lisa Carwile. I've been a resident of Greensboro since 1994. And like many of you, I wear many hats. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a preschool teacher, I'm a volunteer. Numerous years volunteering in Guilford County schools. I definitely support the public schools and glad my daughters graduated a couple years ago with a great success public school education. But tonight I'm wearing a hat as an alumni of the Greensboro City Citizen Police Academy. I participated in the program last year. I definitely encourage, if you're pro-police or not pro-police, it's a great program to be in. You register in the fall, takes place in the spring. It was 14 weeks, and we learned a lot of things. We'd meet weekly, once or twice, and we learned about the law and bias and forensics and narcotics and vice in the K-9 unit. And we also learned about the Family Justice Center and the behavioral mental health unit that the police department has. And we learned about the 500 jobs that the police department is trying to fill, so those 500 kids would not have to find other means to make money and by making the right choices. So I learned also that they always have openings in the police department, over 100 openings. They need to recruit and they need to retain. Last week I got my ride-along, and it was 4th shift in District 2. It was from 8:30 p.m. to 2:30 a.m., and Officer John was wonderful. The whole group of officers that I came in contact with that night, and it was a diverse group of race and gender, they handled every situation, and we went to a lot. It was eye-opening, seeing assault cases and drunk drivers and someone on drugs, and we almost got in a K-9 search unit. That was canceled. Everyone handled it with humility and relatability, no matter if it was a victim, a bystander, or a perp. They handled it with much more grace than I would have, and they gave grace to several different people. And of course, I learned that night too that they're understaffed, that these police officers, they want to be as proactive as they can be, but sometimes it's being reactive, because again, they have 100 openings in their department and need to recruit and retain. So yes, like every business, organization, or whatever, you always have a few bad apples, but my experience with the police department, I've just seen orchards of great apples. So I just wanted to give a little plug for the Greensboro Police Department and the Citizens Academy. No matter where you stand, you can apply for it this next fall, and takes place in the spring. Thank you.
Christine Hopner, followed by Curtis Howard, followed by Tyler Beal.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Christine Hoffner. My focus tonight is on accessibility of body cam video, but I'm starting with appreciation for the fire department's enforcing its values of integrity, trust, respect, and professionalism, and deciding that their leaders must uphold these values. Regarding body cam video, I was encouraged that City Council continued to fight the gag order on the Zara Jones case. The Supreme Court judge lifted it, supporting your point that elected officials' duty is to provide answers to constituents' questions. Then this happened. The judge was even more reasonable and offered that for public release of this video. But the response he got is hard to understand. The Police Officers Association argued against it, and in contrast to the point about your duty, City Council didn't argue for it. The police officer's position doesn't make sense because just 6 months ago in the News and Record, Attorney Rosabi said they generally favor release of all videos as long as it's fully disclosed to the public. And if the gag order was lifted, this video should be released. So now we're left wondering, why did Rosabi change his mind? But what's relevant to voters is, why didn't City Council vigorously support the judge's offer to publicly release the video? It doesn't make sense. Tell us, why didn't you pursue this offer? After all, you made the key point about your duty as elected officials to provide answers to constituents' questions. So, on the one hand, there's my question now about what happened yesterday, and on the other hand, regarding the release of body cam video, the logical next step is answering questions through the public's viewing the video themselves. Yesterday, you had a chance to take that step, but instead you let constituents down. Are you hiding something? I know you know that access to body cam video allows the public to assess police action and credibility. So you're aware it's always in the public interest and never out of date. You can fulfill your duty to constituents by explaining why you backed off in this case and by committing to a policy to petition for public release of body cam video in the future incidents of GPD use of force.
Mr. City Attorney, can you address her concern?
In part, Your Honor, we did not back off. But the issue there for us had to do with your ability, what was the issue on the floor for us had to do with what the Supreme Court had dealt with in terms of a reason for you all to be gagged. The question had to do with a reason for you all to be gagged, and he did not provide a reason and therefore stepped back on the whole issue of the gag order. Attorney Wasabi made a different argument, and that's where the case ended up. So we weren't taking a step back or doing, she's interpolating action for inaction. We didn't, it wasn't a dog in our.
Right. I mean,
You can see this video and talk about it.
are we still gagged?
No.
So we can now see it.
That's what I
and
just
talk
said.
about it.
You can see it and talk about it.
Well, then why haven't we been told we can see it?
This happened yesterday. I haven't had a chance to brief you
Oh,
on
it just happened yesterday?
I'm aware of it, but I hadn't had a chance to brief you on it. That's my fault. But I'll brief you thoroughly on it shortly.
Thank you. And I do know that the police chief is in the process of writing a body-worn camera video policy, which would release all body-worn camera in the event of a critical incident. We are still bound by that civil justice omnibus bill that was passed last year by the legislature. I think it was Senate Bill 300, which actually further restricted council's ability to watch videos. But the police chief is working on a policy where he would apply to a judge for the release of body-worn camera video in the event of all critical incidents. But we still have to work within the boundaries of Senate Bill 300.
Well, let me be clear. As elected officials, I'd like to see you have a policy to petition the judge for release of public videos. That's what makes sense to me. It's your duty as elected officials to answer constituents' questions, releasing the videos, petitioning to release the videos as policy would permit that.
Thank you. Well, I think the police chief has his policy. We have, and at this point, you know, for every single video, I mean, we're asking for videos as they come. To release all videos at this point would mean that every single video would have to go before a judge. And there are, you know, every patrol officer has on a body-worn camera. So it just isn't logical that we could ask the judge for every single video. There has to really be a reason on why we would release it in order to actually take those steps, because it does involve a great deal of legal time and staff time and reviewing the videos. We all would like to see body-worn camera video released easier than it is. And we have, that has been part of our legislative agenda for the last few years. And we speak regularly with the legislature in Raleigh, but we are still bound by what they passed last year. The chief is coming up with a policy, again, to release body-worn camera in the event of a critical incident, but also staying within the bounds of 300. Trey, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, no, you've explained it, and it actually speaks to the request that we've heard quite often. And the police chief's approach to this new policy is somewhat proactive in that he won't wait for council or a request, but if there's a critical incident, and when we get to that point that we identify the policy and how that process will work, we can then disseminate the guidelines or the outline of what a critical incident and how that's defined.
Thank you. Curtis Howard, Tyler Beal, C.C. Crawford.
Good evening. My name is Curtis Howard. I'm International Vice President for Amalgamated Transit Union, and I'm here today to talk to you about one of your city council contracts with public transit as it refers to RapDev, who we are bargaining with at this time. And I don't expect for you to get involved with the bargaining process. However, they came to the table for less than 20 supervisors and said they want a pay reduction. So, you know, the funds in the budget here are federal budget money as well as the local budget money that are taxpayers' dollars. And it's an insult to have city council's contract told to workers in today's society when everything is going up that they want a reduction in their hourly wage and benefits. Some of them have worked with you 24 plus years through multiple contractors. So this is an insult and a disgrace, and I'm here to ask you to get involved in that part of the process. And, you know, before we go back to the table, because if not, you know, as unionized workers, we're just not going to back down in a reduction of 20 workers when the bus drivers and fixed route and paratransit seen significant raises. To have 20 supervisors have their pay cut and their benefits decreased is an insult. I seek your assistance in making things fair under your legal rights. Thank you very much.
So I don't know if the city manager wants to address this quickly, but the city council, we are barred from speaking with the union. City manager, if you could elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah, that would be my response to that. It is not council's place to get involved in negotiations between the vendor.
Specifically, we are barred by law.
Yes, to get involved in that negotiation.
So,
I will have a conversation with RATP Dev, but I do not believe that council should be getting involved in that discussion.
I do this everywhere. I'm aware of the law. I'm not here to ask you to get involved, as I said, in out bargaining. But it is your contract with RapDev. And if RapDev it's only going to become a public fight. It's not a fight that the workers are going to back down from at any point. So I'm telling you, I understand the legal part, but you have a duty under your contract to make sure that they offer a fair wage and benefits. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. I'm coming to ask for assistance for you to do what's in your legal right. And you do have legal rights, despite what council may tell you. I have legal rights to stop the federal funds in 13C. That's a federal protection for transit workers in this country. And you receive that money. So we have rights too. Before it gets dirty and ugly, I'm coming to you saying, express what you can. There's rights on both sides. However, it's the city of Greensboro's contract. And it's no different than that being a city employee. These supervisors work with the community every day, and we're not going to be lessened in our wages and benefits.
Thank you.
So are you, do you work here?
I'm an international vice president. I work for the Amalgamated Transit Union in Washington, D.C.
So that's... He certainly has a right to make comments at council meetings.
Yeah, he has a right.
But he doesn't have a right to provide you with legal advice.
Right.
And we've already provided you with legal advice, and we have a contractor who his labor union is negotiating with. And we're not involved in that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tyler Beal. I use he, they pronouns. I often criticize Greensboro for being more reactive than proactive when addressing equitable policies like investing in affordable housing, helping East Greensboro get some sidewalks or local businesses, or doing literally anything with the old News and Record brownfield right next door. I do not, however, have qualms about our city manager letting go of an openly racist or homophobic employee. Seriously, what are the problems that we are facing here in Greensboro? Apparently it's me. Hi, I'm the problem, it's me. Just your average, woke, CRT-abiding, LGBTQIA+ snowflake who's never shot somebody nor committed a serious crime or a felony, but I've also never called entire groups of people filth or trash. Nor have I fantasized about using a coffee cup to collect children's tears while brandishing a firearm. Meanwhile, hypocritical bigots want to turn around and claim that they are the ones whose rights are being restricted and that they are being marginalized. We shouldn't cower or cave into the demands of people who lead, speak, or act with hate, because they've been doing it ever since they could threaten someone with violence simply to get their way. In what document, text, scripture, or social background is this behavior okay? I know that myself and the people from my community are sick and tired of folks constantly bragging about sexually assaulting women like Donald Trump does. We are sick and tired of a GOP supermajority in state legislatures privatizing and defunding our public education system, and leaders like Tim Moore and Phil Berger passing Don't Say Gay legislation, simply turning North Carolina into Florida. Finally, we are damn tired of our not-so-friendly Greensboro neighbor, Mark Robinson, our city and state's most well-known homophobe and highest-ranking GOP official, who will gladly shake hands this weekend with his fascist and twice-impeached BFFs from Florida. He is on the record that women shouldn't serve in positions of leadership and is a total hypocrite on abortion rights, and now continually uses Christian churches and hate groups like Moms for Liberty to attack LGBTQIA+ people across our city, state, and country. Will we allow hatred and contempt or love and acceptance to win in this battleground for our civil rights? A reminder to the people that we are the home to the second wave of the civil rights movement, and just a block away from the International Civil Rights Museum. So we the people will stand up to schoolyard bullies like former Captain Dustin Jones or the folks visiting this weekend who consistently discriminate against people who may be black, Jewish, an immigrant, or trans. We the people will protest, sit in, and lobby our elected officials for equitable legislation.
Thank you.
We the people will go vote. Black Lives Matter, protect trans youth. Thank you for your time, and be blessed.
Jordan Cameron, C.C. Crawford, Kay Brown. Hello, Ms. J.
Hey. Greetings all. The purpose of my presence today is to express my endorsement of the resolution taken by the City Manager's Office to dismiss the firefighter who composed discriminatory and derogatory messages on social media platforms. In our capacity as public servants, it is incumbent upon us to provide service to all individuals within our community in an impartial and non-discriminatory manner. The breach of trust by a public official through the manifestation of discriminatory conduct such as racism, homophobia, or other forms of prejudice has the potential to erode the fundamental pillars of our societal structure. As an individual involved in the field of education and advocacy, I maintain that it is imperative to effectively communicate a positive and constructive message to our student population. The notion of intolerance is deemed unacceptable and is imperative to ensure that individuals in authoritative roles are held responsible for their conduct. Instances of discriminatory behavior by public service professionals not only inflict harm upon the individuals who are targeted by such actions, but also has the potential to undermine the trust and credibility of the institution as a whole. It is imperative to acknowledge that our verbal and behavioral expressions carry weight and repercussions, and that we bear accountability for their effects on those around us. In order to establish a fair and impartial society, it is imperative that we assume responsibility for our actions and those of others, and demonstrate a readiness to intervene when such actions are deemed inappropriate. The decision to terminate the firefighter who authored discriminatory messages on social media is deemed appropriate in this instance. The aforementioned statement conveys an ambiguous indication that such conduct will not be accepted, and it fortifies the principles of impartiality, uniformity, and deference for every constituent of our society. Thank you for your work, and thank you for continuing to serve our community.
Hi, my name is Cecily Crawford, and I am the chair of Labor and Industry for the NAACP. And I usually will come in here and let workers speak, but this week we were hit with a situation during budget season, and I don't want hate-filled, transphobic, and homophobic posts to take up the space and overshadow the needs of city workers, like it has tonight. Close to 500 firefighters put their uniform on daily to provide assistance to residents, and most of them are honorable workers. But just a few homophobic, transphobic, and racist workers have the adverse effect of sowing distrust in our emergency services. But I'm here to speak up on behalf of city workers asking for a chance to thrive as they help the city do the same. City workers are asking for the respect of $20 an hour, and they're asking this as the bare minimum. Imagine the health and safety catastrophe we would face if the people who pick up our trash, ensure our sewage moves away from our homes, make sure we have clean water, and respond to our emergencies decided to not come. Respect years of service by paying increases, bonuses, and promotions, and these should not depend on favoritism, and grant everyone a 10% across the board raise. We are far behind rising rent prices, groceries, the cost to get to and from work. While the city is growing, so are the responsibilities for our limited number of workers who face long hours for lower wages. City workers have asked for hazard pay when working in adverse weather conditions, They want matching 401 contributions and daily overtime pay. I know that you've heard a number of speakers supporting your decision to stand firm on the termination of a certain city worker who betrayed our trust that he would hold each of us with dignity and worth. But please don't forget about what our family, friends, and community members that work for the city need to provide for their families.
Thank you. Kay Brown, followed by Alvin Robinson, followed by Rosalind Robinson.
So I'm Kay Brown, and I live in District 2 here in the city, and I'm concerned that we have some workers that are not making a livable wage at the moment. I'm the current president of the Greensboro NAACP. Our members, leadership, and constituents have worked really hard on numerous issues to make Greensboro a more inclusive place. I'm here today to also talk about dignity. Dignity for workers, dignity for citizens, and dignity for all residents. Our city workers work hard every day to keep this city running. Many focus on policing, but it actually takes more than just police to make our city work. We need trash, water, sewer, we need office workers, we need people answering the phones, we need code enforcement, we need all that plus more to make our city habitable. There are times where those workers have to work in hazardous conditions, and we believe that they should be compensated for such. With that being said, citizens and residents of Greensboro are urging the council to not only raise the wages, but to also hold a standard. The standard is also inclusion and equity. Many of you may know or may not know, I have identified as a member of LGBTQ community for years. I have a trans sibling. I have queer family members. And I think that it's absolutely disgusting that in 2023, I have to be concerned that based on race, identity, or someone's personal politics, whether or not a first responder will respond in the ways that they need to. I heard a lot of people talk about freedoms, and I know about such. Not only have I started in my 20s in fighting for justice, but I come from a lineage of family members that have honorably served in the military, that have fought and died to uphold freedoms, just to come home and be called a nigga as soon as they walk back through those gates of the United States. One of the things that really concerns me is that we use some of these terms around the First Amendment freely. I actually think that it's good for some people to come out and say how they feel about issues. That also means that we are going to hold you accountable to the standard that we have as residents and as citizens of Greensboro. I would like to stand in support of our city manager in doing what it is that he had to do and continuing to do what he had to do, even though there have often been times that I've sat and watched in these council meetings and saw a level of disrespect by some of our council members against our Black city leadership. I find it appalling and disgusting. We are watching on the budget. People need a minimum of $20 an hour, and really it's $22.50 in a lot of ways. The rent is exceptionally high. And I just wanted to make sure that not only did I come and stand in solidarity with many of my movement kindred today, my trans folks, that is a Black issue, but I stand with everyone in here today. Thank you.
Alvin Robinson, followed by Rosalind Robinson, followed by Chelsea, no last name. If you move to the window side of the room, please.
Yes, my name is Alvin Robinson. I reside at 2139 Huffine Mill Road. I'm here today to address the council related to, on the part of the city, your continuous violation of First Amendment protections. A lot of people say First Amendment rights. The First Amendment, the Constitution, does not give any of us our rights. Our rights are given to us by Almighty God. Before this meeting got started, we stood up and we gave a pledge of allegiance to the flag, and there's a part of that where we say one nation under God, and that's because this nation was founded upon Judeo-biblical, Christian and biblical principles. At the heart of all of this, all the confusion that has happened tonight and things, it is that one thing. As a people, we have forgotten God. It starts out not in Washington. It starts out right here in local governments. You all are charged with upholding the laws or the Constitution that protects our God-given rights and liberty to live in the way in which He has prescribed for us to live. I was a city employee. I was fired back in 2021 as a result of what was really a violation of my First Amendment protection with regard to my religious freedom. I was told that that if I did not take a COVID-19 test, that I would be fired. I was fired after nearly 19 years of service, not because I did anything wrong, but because I chose to honor God instead of bowing to man. I will not bow to either of you or anyone in this audience. I will always bow to God. And the truth of the matter is, everyone in this building will one day bow to God. I do stand with Captain Dustin Jones tonight, and I stand with him because of the fact that he, as one who's created in the image of God, along with all the rest of us, decided to simply speak forth truth. I know my time is running out, and so I'm going to read something to you real quick, because this is where we really are, and this is the reason that really we have so much contention and things like that tonight. This is from the Bible. This is from Romans chapter 1. It speaks concerning the wrath of God. You know, when I say the wrath of God, I'm not talking about hell and those type of things. I'm talking about what we're living under right now. We are under God's judgment. Here it is. Romans chapter 1, verse 18. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness. fill in the blank with whatever type of ungodliness you want to. And unrighteousness of men, who, by their unrighteousness, suppress the truth. What is the truth? That God created man and he created woman. What is the truth? That there is no way that a baby can be born and a life can come into this world apart from one man and one woman coming together. Thank you. Be aware, be warned that the wrath of God, the judgment of God is upon this nation. And unless
Rosalind Robinson, followed by Chelsea, followed by Kayla Murray.
Good evening. My name is Rosalind Robinson. The United States is a constitutional republic, which means the Constitution is the first and final rule of law. If we don't have a standard of rule of law that governs government representatives from violating our rights, then we are subject to any unlawful act, such as getting arrested for publicly praying, getting fired because we can't obey a religiously offensive and intrusive policy, or getting fired for posting a statement on a personal Facebook page, similar to placing a sign in one's yard. As representatives of the people, the U.S. and North Carolina Constitution is your job description. You took an oath to uphold it. So policies, mandates, rules, orders, requirements created and enacted by employers, including government employers, should never trump the Constitution. You should not fire or arrest someone for breaking a policy that violates or breaks our standard rule of law, the Constitution. We, the people of the state of North Carolina, grateful to Almighty God, the sovereign ruler of nations, for the preservation of the American Union and the existence of our civil, political, and religious liberties, and acknowledging our dependence upon Him for the continuance of those blessings to us and our posterity, due for the more certain security thereof and for the better government of this state, ordain and establish this Constitution. Section 1, the equality and rights of persons. We hold it to be self-evident that all persons are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, the enjoyment of the fruits of their own labor, and the pursuit of happiness. Religious liberty, Section 13. All persons have a natural and inalienable right to worship Almighty God according to the dictates of their own consciences, and no human authority shall, in any case whatever, control or interfere with the rights of conscience. Section 14, freedom of speech and press. Freedom of speech and of press are the two great bulwarks, that means rampart, defensive fortification of liberty, and therefore shall never be restrained, but every person shall be held responsible for their abuse. Call to action. The City of Greensboro, the employer, needs to be investigated for unlawful employment practices, such as harassment, retaliation, and discrimination. Alvin has 2 other incidents that he can share with you about their practices prior to his firing as evidence of unlawful practices that have unfortunately become the norm in the City of Greensboro. Please consider what we've just read. That was the oath. That was a part of the Constitution, North Carolina Constitution, that you guys took an oath to defend and uphold. Thank you for the time.
Chelsea, followed by Caleb Murray, followed by Paulette Montgomery.
Hey, you guys. I'm actually here to talk about the Greensboro Housing Department. I grew up in the Greensboro Housing Department, and I had nothing but issues, especially since as a young child. It was really hard growing up in those types of neighborhoods. And with the violence and the gun violence, and it seems like the violence has increased, and it keeps increasing. And then you sit here, and then you're watching the news, and then these people that are committing really, really high crimes, they're killing people, and they're getting sentences that are just not even punishable. This 13-year-old killed a 14-year-old, or a 14-year-old killed a 15-year-old. He didn't even get no time in jail. he got parole. And that is an issue because that is something that needs to be addressed on public safety. It just, it's scary. So it was the other day in Hampton Homes, here in Greensboro, North Carolina. The kids were playing outside, and you hear this one bam, like boom, and the kids thought it was a firecracker. And I'm running to the kitchen door, and next thing all you hear is boom, 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 boom. Hearing something like that, and my daughter is outside. My daughter is outside, okay? She's outside. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm trying to open up the door. And I'm thinking, I'm like, oh my God, like where is, like is my daughter gonna make it? Is she dead? Are these people, like you got this gun, a semi-automatic 20-round clip, banana clip, and you just out here, over here, like, I thought my daughter was dead. And then the girl, the woman that they shot up her apartment, she was on the news. She said she got her son in there. She didn't know the people or nothing. They carjacked somebody, and this could be anybody if y'all don't start addressing this shit. Excuse me, this could be anybody. It could be anybody. They carjacked them at gunpoint. Imagine what it's like you sitting in your car and these people got guns to you. Carjacked them at gunpoint. They shot up one house, went to another house, and shot up the other house.
Thank you. I will say, in a bit of good news, that the police department did arrest the individuals involved.
They're not getting enough jail time. These people
Excuse me, they just got arrested. If you have issues with the jail time, walk across the plaza and talk to the county. Our police officers, they arrest, they bring people down. It is the judges and the DAs, and we are none of those.
Right, I'm just really
Go to the
worried about
county.
the public safety. You guys
We get it.
You guys need to do something about the public safety.
We get it. Our officers are arresting the individuals and bringing them to court. We need to talk to the DA and the judges. Thank you.
Yeah.
Paulette Montgomery, followed by Hester Petty. I'm sure it was.
Good evening. I have to start by saying that the crowd here tonight, from the packed chamber to the overflow seating and the protesters outside, this is what community looks like. Happy Pride. Tonight, in unusual fashion, I am here in support of our council. I have to give credit where credit is due. Being the mother of an LGBTQ child, I sincerely thank our city manager and our council for supporting the termination of Justin Jones, and by doing so, letting it be known that hate has no place in Greensboro. Even after John Hammer's one-sided Rhino Times editorial and subsequent cowardly omission of the termination letter, Greensboro brought it tonight. I do want to ask Mr. Matheny, though, do you personally support the city manager's decision? No answer, that's okay. I still also want to thank council for your support on the release in the release of the gag order in the Zared Jones case. At yesterday's hearing, the gag order was vacated, allowing council to speak about the footage. Our police chief was also given the authority to release the video to the public. I know he's not here. I was expecting him to be, but Chief Thompson, will you do so? This community has been waiting 7 years. It is way past time. I just want to reiterate, as evidenced by the crowd tonight, there's no room for hate in Greensboro, just love and justice. Thank you and happy Pride.
That Police Chief Thompson is in Raleigh today, and he was advocating on behalf of our bill, was it 140 for the civilian traffic enforcement, and It made it out of the local government commission, and I think in large part due to his advocacy. Hester Petty, followed by Corey Ann Burt, followed by Sadiqa Ahmed.
Good evening. My name is Hester Petty. I think y'all know where I live by now. I've been a little bit out of the politics here for a while. I understand that they were talking about getting a Lidl store down south of the Gate Plaza and
the redevelopment area?
Yes. And I don't know if that went through or if there's a problem with it, because we just got a Lidl up in northwest Greensboro where I live. It's right across the street from a fresh market. It's right down the street from my Harris Teeter. It's like it boggles my mind that we have all these food deserts and this overabundance of daggone grocery stores in my neighborhood. Now, my second big complaint about it is they chopped down every tree on that lot. And for that very reason, I will never shop there, because there were some nice trees out on that place. They're all gone. And that's kind of how it happens with a lot of these developments. They just cut all the trees down and plant a few little ones. It's a shame. Anyway, I hope the Lidl comes through down where the food desert is. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. We'll get you the information on the redevelopment site. I do believe that they had a year due diligence when they first signed the contract, so we can get neighborhood development or to bring you up to speed on what that Lidl project looks like.
Okay, I'll try to pay attention to the daggone situation.
So we have Corey Ann Burt, Sadiqa Ahmed, and I believe I may have missed Larry Malcolm.
Good evening, Council. I hope y'all are doing okay this evening. My name, again, is Corrine Knight Burt. I'm here tonight to ask you politely if y'all can possibly get up with me about our rental properties and buildings being targeted and what the villains or enemy, whatever you want to call them, is calling it blighting out our properties in hopes that the city will overthrow them and sell them to them. Our family does not sell our properties, and like the lady talked about, all our trees are being cut down. Just this past week, I've experienced 2 different cases of 80 acres of dirt excavated off the property, and then there was another 80 acres excavated out at a project on Jamestown Road where we're building a Cancer Research of America hospital. And you know, this dirt is being shipped out across the coast in different places, and we just need time to sit down with y'all and find out what we can do to combat this. Because we, Mahogdadoo and Undus Jade family get together. I am their representative. We are good people. We're your family, everybody in here. We're kin to probably 98% of the population. And we don't need our properties destroyed. There was just over last night alone, throughout the night, there were 5 houses had the foundations took out and the floors ripped out of them. I went across town today towards Friendly Shopping Center, and I saw another 2 houses that was being done the same way. Holy Trinity Church has had its roof ripped off of it. We're very concerned. These are our properties. And we need, the police to step up and help us instead of, taking a payoff and turning their back. We need consideration. We are not rich. We base our rent on true value family rent, which it goes by what year you were born. And we have to, that's fine. You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
but please get with me because I really do need to discuss this issue with y'all.
Dr. Sadiqa Ahmed, followed by Larry Malcolm. Those are all the speakers I have signed up. If you signed up and I have not called your name, please go to the window side of the room.
Good evening, everybody. Peace upon all of you. My name is Sadiqa Ahmed, and I am a former IAC chair from 2019 to 2021, and I am a counselor, and I love everybody, and I treat everybody as a human. And I am the executive director of a new organization called Helping Hands USA for Mental Health. And I am recent graduate from Greensboro Police Citizen Academy. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak today on behalf of my community. I want to say the relationship between our community and the police is not that strong because of the language barrier and cultural sensitivity. Many of our community members do not interact with police outside of enforcement context, and this resulted on some people develop negative association with police because the only contact they ever have with them is receiving a traffic citation or calling the police to report being the victim of crime. That's why when the police finding opportunity to interact with community member in a non-enforcement context helps to reduce bias on the part of community members and the police officers. Getting to know community residents help both groups, our community and break down the police and our community, and break down personal barriers and overcome stereotypes. This introduction because I want to say on April 8th, which was the month of Ramadan, which people are fasting, and a woman from our community was ready to deliver food to an Islamic center of Greensboro, and her car broke down. And a police officer was passing by her and asked her if she needs some help. The officer then called 4 police cars to come and help him to deliver the food to the center so people can eat and break their fast on time. One of the members of the Islamic Center made a video of that police cars delivering the food and made an interview with the woman who who delivered the food that day. That day I was in another event. I wasn't there, and I received the video, and then I translated it in English and sent it to Kate. That video went viral and had a positive comment from all Muslims all around the world. And here in Greensboro, our community felt more comfortable, and many of them changed their perception of the police. From here and on behalf of my community, I want to thank them. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, Council. How y'all doing today? My name is Larry Malcolm Smith, Jr. I know it says I Am Queens. I Am Queens is just a foundation for foster care youth that have aged out homeless and trying to get them into HBCUs and get a public education. I'm just here today just to say thank you. I'm a part of the NAACP chapter of North Carolina A&T State University. I serve as the political action chair. I stand with the protesters and the folks that are that demanded for the firing and the conviction of the man that had said homophobic words. I stand with those people, so thank you for getting the job done to everybody. I just wanted to open up a conversation with each and every one of you, having to be an HBCU student. I'm just speaking for a lot of the voices that are voiceless. A lot of students at my school just recently, we had a white man like come on our campus with gun rifles, guns and like bombs and stuff like that. I know he was charged, but we just wanted to bring awareness to still fight to get a conviction for this man. We're just still trying to apply pressure. I'm here just to speak to each and every one of you about what's happening in the foster care system as well. A lot of foster care youth that have aged out homeless. In the foster care system of Greensboro as well, it's hard for foster care youth to find a permanent home. And as I stand here today, I just want to share with you all that I have a 3.91 GPA, majoring in African American Studies with a minor of business entrepreneurship and a concentration of political science. I just wanted to like literally open up a conversation if we could literally save our youth, fight for our youth. As a youth person, as a senior at college, it just feels that a lot of the times people say what they want to do for the youth, but they're not directly talking to us. It just feels very divisive and disingenuous. A lot of students also are afraid to use their voice because they feel that they can be condemned, denounced, be retaliated with vengeance or anything like that. I just am here to express gratitude, express my praises to everybody in this room to give me an opportunity to be a voice from my HBCU. Again, like I just want to really just open up a conversation about what's happening in the foster care system. There's a lot of reform that is really needed at this time. Foster care aged out youth like myself don't have a permanent home. Don't get me wrong, while I'm at school, I'm taking out loans, but I don't want other students to have to go through what I'm going through. Thank you for giving me the time, and God bless each and every one of you and continue to go in peace. Thank you. Okay, no problem. We did like try to do like, this was back at the time when you was rerunning for mayor and you were going against Justin Outling and other folks. We tried to get in contact with your department, your administration, but we wasn't like getting responsive emails. This is just from my NAACP secretary.
No, and I would say that we always respond. So I'm not sure who.
If there is a miscommunication, I apologize.
No. And if there was, certainly we will address it. But we always want to reach out to our college students because we want you to feel welcome and that hopefully this will become your long-term home. So we appreciate it when we can get on campus and talk with students, whether it's North Carolina A&T, UNCG, or any of the other, or Bennett, colleges or universities within Guilford County.
No problem. Thank you guys and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. So those are all the speakers that I believe are signed up. If I've missed anything, let me know right now. Otherwise, we are going to close the speakers from the floor session of our meeting, and we are going to take a 10-15-minute break and come back and finish the rest of the agenda.
Inside the office building at 114 North Elm Street in downtown Greensboro, you'll find Zaytoon Mediterranean Grill. You'll come for the food. It's fresh, it's clean, it's organic, it's local, and you'll stay for the stories behind the food.
So I grew up in the Holy Land,
you know, so we are family oriented, you know, meal is very important to us, you know, so we gather and everybody around the table and we centered and we eat together and we chat and this, and we lived in a very sustainable community, and everything comes from within very small distance, everything local, and everything is delicious. Since I'm health coach and I'm really health oriented about a lot of things, I try my best really to use the best ingredient to feed my customers, because that's how I eat, and I want my customer to eat healthy. So we focus on food as medicine in general. Our restaurant started in 2000, actually. I came to America in 1989 to finish my master, but for some reason we couldn't go back, and I finished my master, but we stayed here. I had 3 children, so I have to do something, and I never knew how to cook really. You know, I went to college in Jordan University, finished my 4-year college, and you know how I lived college life and all of these kind of things. Went to Kuwait. I taught in Kuwait for many, many years, came in 1989, so we started going to the farmer market. There, the seeds of zaytun started, and then I become very health-oriented. I went to Duke, I finished my health coaching, and we started the restaurant. Well, zaytun means in Arabic, olives, and it's kind of universal language. We chose that because in Spanish, az-zaytun, and Hebrew, zitim, Arabic, zaytun, so it's kind of everybody will understand it, so it's olives. Jaddara, which is rice and lentil pilaf with caramelized onion, is really very famous. We've been doing it, I'm telling you, for almost 20 years. And people like it. First of all, it's vegetarian, vegan. It's kind of universal. For people who want it to be vegetarian, it will be served with tzatziki. If it is vegan, with no tzatziki, it's been in our culture for, I grew up eating it, and it's delicious, it's good. We like it. We eat it either with plain yogurt or with cucumber, which is the tzatziki. We eat it with the cucumber and dill and all of these kind of things, or with salad, fine chopped salad. Again, everything we used to eat local, you know, sustainable. So it's very famous back home and famous here, and people like it. The soup is called carrot lentil. It's one of the dishes we serve it here as zaytun. We use in our culture a lot of lentils because we grow it locally and people use it. So this carrot lentil soup, they used to do it traditionally from the rainwater. So rainwater, it's for some reason, it has different flavor. Specifically, they've done it this way. The molds, those we use them for ma'moul, and ma'moul, it has really very unique story because we use those molds around the celebration of after as a Palestinian, we have Muslim and Christian. So Muslim, they fast Ramadan and they celebrate, you know, after they break Ramadan, the Eid al-Fitr. So in that tradition, we use, you know, the ma'moul, and it's a dough. We make it and we mold it with those molds. And the Christian in Easter, the same thing they do. So it's very, you know, around that time of the celebration, traditionally long time ago, because it's a small communities, not very big and not many cars and stuff like this. So you were sitting in somewhere in your neighborhood, where in your house, and all the neighbors, they gather and they do, you know, the ma'moul, and all you hear is just like those molds, it's just like tick, tick, tick. They just like, you know, it's a very beautiful memory. Those molds, very specific, and it's really very unique. I look at food as food is very spiritual also. You know, if you put love into food and you serve it, people like it. I mean, feel it. So it's, we use pure ingredient, and people, you know, for many years they've been eating it and sensing it. So I take pride about our philosophy and about our cooking and all of this kind of things, people sense and use and like. So we've been doing it for almost 20 years now.
We are all aware of the importance of water and how it moves. From the highest points of land, it moves downstream through streams and rivers, eventually making its way to the sea. Cities like ours collect and treat this resource so it can be used safely by all residents. But this water does not belong to us alone. Once it's been used, it's collected again, treated, and released back into those same rivers and streams, which take it downstream to our neighbors in other towns and cities who depend on it just as much as we do. The City of Greensboro Water Resources collects and treats as much as 11.9 billion gallons per year. Take a moment to think about how you use water daily. When we take showers, we use soap, shampoo, and other products. When we wash dishes and our clothes, we use detergent. Most of what we use water for at home, aside from drinking and cooking, require that we add some product to it. Any personal care products, cosmetics, hair treatment, things that you wash off, all end up in the wastewater that is treated and sent to our neighbors, who use the water for the very same things. It's important that we consider the safety of our downstream neighbors as we use water in our city. By being aware of the types of products we are using, we can avoid the buildup of harmful byproducts. For example, 1,4-dioxane, which is a byproduct of a manufacturing process called ethoxylation, is found in many common household products. This organic chemical is one of many found in trace quantities in both ground and surface waters throughout the U.S. Uses and sources of 1,4-dioxane include industrial solvent stabilizer found in paint strippers, varnishes, soaps, makeup and personal care products, antifreeze, etc. It also exists as an unintended byproduct in manufacturing and recycling of certain plastic and polyester products. Because 1,4-dioxane is a byproduct of the manufacturing process, it's not listed on the label of household products. Read the label of any product that generates suds. Try to avoid chemicals ending in ETH, for example, sodium lauryl sulfate, as well as products that have chemicals ending in oxanol and PEG. Often these chemicals are found in things like laundry detergents, shower gels, and personal care products that create suds. Paints, dyes, waxes, and grease can also contain these chemicals. You can look for unfragranced Castile soaps, or wording like USDA organic and made safe as alternatives. For more information about these alternative products, you can visit the Environmental Protection Agency website at www.epa.gov/saferchoice/products. The City of Greensboro's Water Resources Department has been investigating sources of 1,4-dioxane within the city's sewer collection and wastewater treatment facilities since 2015. Considerable progress has been made, and the department continues to work proactively with local industries through the Industrial Pretreatment Program. Greensboro has a long and strong working relationship with NCDEQ and appreciates its guidance and assistance in our efforts. Through these partnerships, the city fully commits to developing a management strategy to further reduce the release of 1,4-dioxane into waterways that may potentially impact downstream communities who rely on the Hall River and Cape Fear River for their source water. For more information, please visit the City of Greensboro's Water Resources Department online at greensboro-nc.gov/water.
might guess by the name that when you visit Jerusalem Market on Elm Street in downtown Greensboro, you're going to enjoy delicious Middle Eastern food. What you might not know from the name is that you'll be treated like family.
So our father started Jerusalem Market, the grocery store, the deli, in 1989. And frankly, as soon as I could reach the counter, I was helping Dad, just doing what I could, whether it be running the register, just stocking shelves. But, you know, we always observed them cooking because my dad loves to cook and my mom loved to cook too. So growing up, we were always around a lot of the food and exposed to the recipes. And we weren't necessarily like right there helping, but you got to watch and see what goes in everything. And you learn by, you know, osmosis. You learn by just picking it up. So that was always, you know, it wasn't really asked of us, but we wanted to help in the store. And it really got us going, and really just that's what got us started with the love of the food and the love of the food, like the culture through the food. Growing up, you know, meals were important. We always ate together as a family. Always made it a point on Sundays to, because my dad worked nights a lot of times running the original store, working night and day. So a lot of times during the week, we'd just be eating with Mom and eating with Dad, and always on Sunday. It was like you had to be there for Sunday dinner. But it was, mealtime always meant just basically sharing your day and sharing some, you know, some food. We made it a point to sit at the table, and you know, when you're younger, you don't always appreciate that, but it's really awesome, and I'm glad that we were kind of forced in a good way to do that. But yeah, cooking was always important in our family. A lot of us, you know, a lot of my family likes to cook and would always bring food over. A lot of times we had aunts and uncles that lived close proximity. If they made a dish that they had extra, they'd always bring some to share. And that's always like part of the community too, just sharing the food and sharing, you know, if you got it, you share it, and that's what's cool. So just working with our dad all those years, you know, we always had a limited kind of menu at the deli there. And it was something we wanted to expand on because there's so many recipes like the one I shared with you earlier called mashi, kusa mashi, which means stuffed squash. It's, you know, yellow squash, like a spring squash, hollowed out and stuffed with a meat and rice, like ground lamb and beef mixed with just basically white long grain rice, cooked with spices, and then you stuff the squash in there. And you can cook it in like a light tomato sauce or even a yogurt sauce. And you just eat it like that, get a few squash on your plate with the sauce, and you get that way you get the sauce when you cut it open on the rice. And you could even, you know, you could even, if the season is right, have really small grapevine leaves that you blanch really quick and then put that same meat and rice mixture into and roll them. And that was a really special thing because you didn't have those all the time. And that was something like almost never made it to the table because everyone would end up munching them as the other food is being ready. Like the stuffed grape leaves were sitting there and everyone just, you know, kind of squirreling them away. So yeah, that's my personal like favorite thing growing up, and still really to this day actually. Another favorite dish growing up, it was something very special called msaken. It's a Palestinian roasted whole chicken, or even use Cornish game hen if you want to be really fancy. But it's served with a highly reduced mixture of sumac. Sumac is a lemony, tangy, purple-colored spice. Sumac and onions sautéed down until the onions are super caramelized and, you know, nice and creamy. So you take some fresh pita bread, or my dad's oldest sister would make a very special bread that she cooked on rocks, like stones. So it would have an awesome cratery texture, and she makes a nice big loaf of that fresh bread. And then after you roast the chicken, you put the sumac onions on top of the bread and the chicken on top of that, and then finish in the oven for 5-10 more minutes. And it comes out and it's served family style, so it's intended, everyone just kind of, you know, back home you eat with your hands, and this is definitely one of those dishes. It's best served that way, where everyone just kind of tears into it. You dip you tear the chicken off, you dip the chicken into the onions, and you get the bread and just eat bites of it like that. It's really intensely flavored and just awesome, just clean, crisp flavors. And it's something that always reminds me, because my aunt's bread is super special, and it's good with the pita bread, but that was always taking it to another level, you know? So yeah, when people enjoy the food and really appreciate where it comes from, and, you know, my grandmother's recipes, you're eating the same thing like we used to eat, it really opens, it really touches our heart, because it's really, that's kind of the deepest, especially in our culture, it's the most genuine way to show gratitude, is to feed somebody and to share something that you prepared for yourself with them. And the fact that our guests can appreciate that on the same level is really awesome. It feels like we're almost feeding you in our house, in our home, and that's one thing we really like to focus on here, is keeping that personal touch and being able to interact with our guests and really see how much they appreciate and enjoy it, because it makes it rewarding to bust your butt and work hard here if people appreciate it on that level.
Welcome to this latest installment of Greensboro Business Profiles. I'm your host, Carla Banks. Join me as I feature a variety of business owners who choose to call Greensboro their home. It goes without saying, the small business community is critical to our local economy. Greensboro Business Profiles highlights their services and celebrates their contributions. Let's meet today's profile.
My motivation for branching out and starting my own private practice was a result of me wanting to be able to show up in this field of mental health authentically. I was able to start my therapy career with a local agency, Peculiar Counseling. Absolutely loved them. They taught me everything, taught me a lot of what I know now. And so just being able to see the effect that I had and knowing how much of a leader I am, I wanted to be able to see, if this could be possible. And it has been thus far, and just being able to show up in both of my passions of social work, therapy, and fashion, and being able to make that all live in one place. Theranista is therapist and fashionista put together. So a couple years ago in 2018, I started a fashion styling company, and it was originally called Fetch Fashions because I was obsessed with the term fetch. And I am very much so a girl's girl. I love to dress up. I love to have all of the razzle dazzle. And so I enjoyed at the time styling people. So I was styling photo shoots, local business brands, just all types of ventures I had gotten into. And so I was like, okay, I was also a therapist at the same time. So I was like, okay, how can I make this live in one place? I was like, it just came to me. I was like, Theranista. I was like, I can make this work. I can really make this work. And so ultimately the business is Theranista Wellness, helping you look as good as you feel and feel as good as you look. Being able to speak this message of you can't just work on the outer without working on the inner, and vice versa. Like, we have to be able to become our whole best self and how we present to the world from an internal and external perspective. They love being able to come into a safe space that I've created, because ultimately when I show up in the consultations, I like to call them a vibe check. Like, this is where we meet and greet, because I'm very big on people finding their therapist, especially for men. When men go into therapy, they know the type of therapist that they desire. So they know if they would like to see an African-American female, they know if they would like to see a Caucasian female, they know if they would like to see a man, Caucasian or African-American. Men know what they want going into therapy. So me being myself does not bother them. And I made sure in my marketing, in my overall aesthetic, that it wasn't too girly, because I did want to attract men. I want to attract all people to be able to come in and seek wellness. I really enjoy being able to teach my clients skills because they have a running joke, and they don't even know it amongst everyone, where they say, I make life seem so simple within the green walls. And I tell them it is that simple. When you all take the skills that we discuss in here and you apply it in your real life situations, life is really that simple. And they come back and they're like, so I did what you told me to do and it worked. And I'm like, I know, yay. So it's me being able to teach them the necessary skills because they don't have a therapist in their pockets. So I tell them I can't go down into Thumbelina form and be with you all over the place. That's not the thing. But here are some skills, right? Skills to deal with anxiety, skills to deal with depression, skills to be able to improve your overall gratefulness in life. And so those are some of the things that we discussed, just going over life's transitions and life's problems, because they're there. But one of the things that I tell them is that when you come to therapy, we're dealing with all of life, right? So the good thing is if you start therapy and we're dealing with everything that has happened before today, when life happens tomorrow, it's not as heavy because you don't have yesterday's stuff and what's in front of you stuff. You're just dealing with what's in front of you. And it makes life a little bit easier, a little bit manageable. One of the things I tell especially my
Thank you. So we are now moving to our consent agenda.
So moved.
Items H1 through H9, moved by Mr. Colston, seconded by whom? Mrs. Hoffman. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes 9-0. Yvonne, you had wanted to make a comment.
About 2 weeks ago, Ivan Cutler wrote I'm sorry he left, he was here for a long time, wrote an article about 33 African-American patriots that served our country in many different branches of the service, but has never been really recognized. And I'd like for us to recognize them, and my idea was to have their names put in one of our buses as to honor them. It would be lovely to do it by the 4th of July, but I don't think we can't move that fast, Mr. Manager. But it would be nice to do that.
Where can we find those names?
There are 33. I'm going to send them all. They were in the paper about 2 weeks ago, Ivan Cutler's article. But I'm going to also send the names to the manager tomorrow. Okay. And I'd like to ask you all for your support in doing that.
In wrapping a bus?
Mm-hmm.
Second. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 9-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Item I.1 is an ordinance amending the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, Fund, the General Capital Improvements Fund, and the fiscal year 2022-2023 general fund budgets in the amount of $545,000 for the expenditure of ARP fund interest earnings. Sure.
Again, I know I'm on the losing side of this, but this makes no sense to me. We've got a $2.5 million budget at downtown Greensboro. Our audits are $5,000 to $6,000. I mean, this budget item makes 0 sense. and we're allocating too much money for this. And if it's a one-time thing for nonprofits that have not received city funds, that have a budget, typically, as argued, that is smaller, then the audit's not going to be $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I just reiterate, this is a line item. I'll go back to my carpet. You could put $60,000 worth of carpet in, keep $100,000 and allocate towards this, which would make a hell of a lot more sense. This is absurd.
You're right. It's very high for an audit. I mean, too high.
Sharon?
Well, I can't pull up my item now, but when I read this, I thought it was, you just said interest. But what else is there besides the interest? Maybe I misread it.
So there was $545,000 in interest, and then I think $160,000 of that was allocated for the
audits
audit assistance.
For the audits that we already said we would do, for the nonprofits who probably have all the nonprofits gotten their money?
We have
Because
contracts with most of them, and those that have contracts are being paid on a reimbursement basis. So as they send us invoices for approved efforts, they're being reimbursed as those programs move along.
So it's a reimbursable, so half of them, I bet you half of them won't even be able to get all the money because you're going to make them spend first before they get. I don't like that, and I would really like to discuss if it's under a certain threshold that they're not reimbursable, that they get the service, if it's a service contract and they get the money. But, and that's another, I'll bring that up after this item, but we already said we would give them the audit piece of it, so part of that's for the audit, and it's coming out of the interest.
Correct.
It's not coming out of the actual dollars that came down, this money that we earned off the dollars we got.
Right. It's from the interest earnings, and council approved a policy back in January that we would offer up to $20,000 support for audits for those first-time recipients of city funds. And this is just setting those funds in a budget. We have earned more interest than $160,000, so we want to account for that balance. That's where you get the 535 figure. So we're just asking council to set those additional dollars aside. We know we have several ARP-enabled projects for the city that will more than likely go over budget, things like the library roof and other projects like that. And we just want to set these additional funds aside to help us with any cost overruns.
Oh, that makes sense.
But first things first is that 160 for the audit commitment that we made.
Okay. I'll move the item.
Well, it moved by Dr. Wells.
Okay, you moved
by
it.
Mrs.
Did you
Hightower.
say 160 for an audit?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. For the 8 organizations that are getting
For 8 organizations.
that are getting the first full-time first allocation of city funds.
And this is up to.
Okay.
But also, though, even though it's up to, we said we would, if they sent us the bill, or that we could also do that, take care of that. So does that need to be part of anything other than we're saying it?
That's built into our contracts with the agencies.
Okay.
Okay, so did council vote?
No.
That's for 8 organizations that. No.
No, it's 20,000 apiece. What'd you say? Oh,
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Councilmember Thurm.
Tammy? And that carries 6-3 with Mrs. Hoffman, Mrs. Thurm, and Mr. Matheny voting no. We move on to item I.2, which is an ordinance amending Equipment Services Fund fiscal year 2022-2023 budget in the amount of $1 million for the purchase of replacement police vehicles.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Where's this $1 million coming from?
This is being appropriated from the Equipment Services Fund budget.
The Equipment Services Fund. So how much is normally in that fund?
We try to keep anywhere from $2 to $3 million in available fund balance, but we want to use this $1 million to get these police vehicles while they are available.
And your basis for I guess, is just to buy cars out of it? And
Yes, this is the fund that is managed through our garage. So they are the owners of almost all of our rolling stock. So almost any type of vehicle, car, truck, anything pretty much on wheels, our garage buys it and then leases it internally to the user department. So that's why you see this budgeted in equipment services as opposed to the police department budget.
so, do we buy filled-out trucks with this money?
The garage does manage their fleet as well, the majority of it.
But this is the phasing in of the take-home vehicles.
This is
This
really
is not
our
the phasing.
replacement cars that we did not get this year.
This is replacement cars. This ain't phasing in of anything.
Well, so I asked Mr. Davis for some clarification, and it said the police department has purchased and received 40 vehicles related to the take-home program voted on by council. 10 of the vehicles have been sent to contracted vendor to set up and are now ready to have VMCs and radios installed. There is an agenda item on the 6th council meeting to make a budget adjustment to fund the VMCs for 40 vehicles. It is a critical item to be passed or we won't be able to finish the setup and issue the vehicles. It's anticipated the first 10 vehicles will be fully equipped and issued in July. So those were for the take-home.
Right, and that was actually supported through another consent agenda item that you had on tonight's agenda, which will provide for the cameras necessary to get those vehicles in play. This particular item is really just for replacement vehicles because our order for replacement vehicles this year did not get filled. We have been working towards hybrid vehicles. Starting last year, we began ordering hybrid police vehicles. During the year, Ford was unable to get the necessary parts to build it, and they just simply said, we're not building hybrid vehicles this year. So all hybrid vehicle orders went unfilled. Luckily for us, there was a North Carolina car dealership that purchased gas-burning vehicles in anticipation that they could probably find a buyer for those. And we are that willing buyer. So we are buying 24 gas-powered vehicles to just basically help keep the police fleet on the road. These really are designed to replace vehicles that are really beyond typical lifespans and are costing us more than they should to stay in the fleet.
Move the item.
So are you, I'm still not finished asking my question. You can move whatever you want to move, but I'm not finished asking my question.
I thought we were full of love tonight. What happened?
Well, it ain't here, brother. So with these 24, all 24, when I read the item, it just really said to have one as a backup. So how many are actually being replaced? You just holding them all?
No.
Or are you replacing the wrecked ones? Because there's a bunch of wrecked ones sitting on Patton Avenue too. So are you replacing those?
We're down to one backup vehicle. We literally have one car in inventory right now. So we're down to one fender bender, and we're out of police cars. So that's why we wanted to move on these so quickly. That's why I asked our garage to bring this to your attention and for your approval as soon as we found out about the availability of the cars. So these will all go into service. They will be replacing vehicles that need to come out of service.
So they're replacing vehicles that the mileage is, even though some of our buses are still rolling, some other things are rolling, but we're replacing police cars.
Mary Kay?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and I understand what you're saying, Sharon, but there are some police cars that are 2010, 2011 that have gone way past their prime. I think you can see what some of the officers are driving around.
We made a commitment to the take-home car program, and we should at least be 2 years in. and it doesn't seem like we're making much progress. And I understand that it is supply chain issues, but did talk to the police chief. I don't know that we typically do Fords, but that maybe there are other cars that we should look at.
Yeah, Mayor, so this is great for them. It accomplishes both. I know that we've got to replenish the fleet. We've got to have cars in the immediate so that we could at least have, the patrol officers that are out there. But I did talk with the chief. This does help get us to that place that we can continue to work toward the plan of fully equipping the officers with the take-home cars. So, immediately, no, it doesn't, go directly into a pool for take-home, but it is going to get us to that place because we and like you just said, I mean, the supply chain is so depleted right now. It's just really hard to get the cars that they need.
But we can get replacement cars, but we can't get take-home cars. Is there something I don't understand about a car? And even if it's 2011, I had a 99 Toyota Avalon. I would still been driving it today. I just decided I want another car. So,
Larry, I appreciate you
don't.
rushing this. $42,000, less than $42,000 for 24 police cars. Now, see, that makes sense to me. And I've seen our vehicles. I see them every day, especially downtown. And I see our buses, too. And this is an absolute no-brainer. And so I look forward to getting this motion passed as soon as possible.
Well, I look forward to voting no since you're in a hurry and you don't want to allow me the opportunity to finish asking my question. Zach Matheny, you sat here and went on and on and on about those homeless pallet shelters for 45 minutes and nobody said a word. But when it comes to me, you got to interrupt. And I don't interrupt you. What is it?
Okay. All right,
what is it about you? What is it about you?
Sharon, are you through, Dr.
No,
Wells would
I
like to speak?
wasn't. So again, I asked the question around what is the difference between take-home cars and replacement cars? Are they all going to do the same thing? And it's $1 million for 24 of these. And it's how much? 800,000?
There's no difference. It's just we're out of cars. So unfortunately, all of these cars will need to be for replacement. They don't create, at least immediately, like Trey was saying, they don't create an immediate availability for additional cars for take-home purpose. If we were able to buy 45 or 50 cars, we might actually have some additional cars to start to add to the take-home fleet. But right now, these are all the cars we can get our hands on, and we need every last one of them as a replacement vehicle in the short term.
Maybe I can jump in quickly also and say that the sense of urgency here is that if we were not to move forward with this, another local jurisdiction that's looking for police vehicles right now would jump on that because the dealership is local. And this could be accomplished
I think it's going to pass. We're committed. They have to have cars, but we also committed to the take-home cars. And when we want to be competitive, all of the neighboring municipalities have take-home cars. We just have to figure out how to get them. We committed to it 2 years ago. We just have to find a way to make it happen. I get that these are replacement vehicles, but it seems like we're not going anywhere. So.
Well, I know we have to do this, but I listened to one of the speakers tonight, and the speaker said that it seems like we get some things done, and then some other things just keep. It takes forever to get them done. Now, one of the things that we've spent, we would have spent about $2 million on the police department tonight, and the bus system, I still think we need to do something about the transit system. And the people riding for an hour to try to get someplace across town. So some of the things that people have to deal with all of the time, and it doesn't seem like it's happening for them. And then we just put certain things we put on black, we have to do that right away. And we understand that the police department needs it, but it does make you wonder, why is it we just focus one way when there are other things that our citizens need that we need to be pushing for.
It's an unbalanced effort.
Because I was listening to, I thought about that. I said, yeah, because certain things we've been doing, and we sit up here and we make way for certain things and make it happen. And so I know we have to do these things, but I think we should be more balanced. If we do something here, we need to do something there. And there's some concerns that have been on the table for years that we haven't finished.
$2 million they're taking out to balance the budget out of transit, and yet we can't get a cross-town route to keep people from being on the bus 2 hours to get from one place to another. I just think it's unfair. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong that we have focused on one area. It's wrong. You're putting all the money on one side and be damned everybody else. It's wrong. Transit suffering, field ops is suffering. It's wrong. But, you make police, you have put them on a pedestal. I understand public safety is important. It is. But you have put them on a pedestal, and everybody else is upset, including me. It is wrong. And you say it like it's just wonderful, let's do it. But you don't try to fix the other stuff that's wrong. Somebody said tonight, you've not done things you promised. They're absolutely right. Things we have promised people, we're not, and now we won't do because we're cutting out. We're cutting out everything. It's wrong. It's wrong.
If we don't do this, we're not going to have cars for our police department to have in service to just on a daily routine.
Nancy, they don't ride through my neighborhood anyway. They go and park behind Gateway University Research Park. They don't ride through my neighborhood. They don't patrol.
Well, that's another issue.
If they got cars, then great. Get in them, and just ride. Just ride.
Mary Kay?
I'm not going to say a whole lot I've said a lot of things at prior meetings, but I am going to say this. Right now we don't have enough officers to ride through the neighborhoods. The police department is the only department that's 120 down. Now, do we need to be fair across the board? Of course we do. I'm always accused of not being fair in that way, but that is not the point, and that is not the subject we're looking at this evening. If there is only one police vehicle available tonight, which is the case, and 2 police cars have flat tires, if 3 police cars have fender benders because they're trying to get to somebody's house because there's an emergency, forget it. Yeah, or the car is being serviced. So I'm not going to get into a back and forth. I've already been through the fact that every time an officer walks out, it's $100,000 of taxpayer money because we spent that to train them. Since January, we have had 33 officers leave. If we don't have a safe community, we're not going to be able to have that bus service. We're not going to be able to have those garbage trucks run. We're not going to be able to have all of those things because everything will be pulled back in a crisis level where the criminals will be taking over and we don't have a safe city.
Well, get the National Guard here.
Now, let's say this. Don't interrupt me.
Damn. Get the National Guard here.
Absolutely not.
Good God Almighty, if it's that big.
So I don't want it perceived that we don't care about other departments. I know GDOT is working hard. I know that Water Resources is working hard. I know that all of the departments are working hard. It just happens that this is the one department that is 120 down, and all of our neighboring municipalities are stealing our officers. The point here is we don't have backup vehicles. Yes, we need the take-home cars. Yes, we need this. But if 3 officers' cars need service tomorrow, that's 3 more officers less we have out on the streets. So that's what I think we're trying to portray here.
Tammy?
Just to clarify, I think what I understood from you saying is if we were to buy these vehicles now as replacement cars, the next time cars come up, they can go to officers for take-home cars rather than replacing the stock that we're out of.
Yeah, I mean, our intention is next year's order will be both replacement and take-home vehicles.
So it will, in effect, it gets us closer to getting them, maybe not now, these 24 vehicles, but it gets us, in effect, closer to being able to give those others, or not give, assign those others as take-home vehicles.
Yes. Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be in support of this vote. At the same time, I'm also in support of the words from Council Members Hightower and Dr. Wells, in that we need to find a way to do both of these things, not just pick one or the other. We talked about it in our budget sessions, talked about it in our work sessions, and there have to just be some tough decisions we have to make. And we have to figure out the things that are most important to us, the things that we need. And we know that we need to take care of public safety. It's our reputational risk. But we also need to take care of our citizens and make sure that the systems we have are as effective as they possibly can be, not just having routes that go into the city, but also those cross routes. And so it's just going to be incumbent upon us to sit down and make some decisions. And sometimes those decisions will cost. And we have to be willing to bear the burden of those costs just to make sure that we have what we need and our citizens have what they need. So I'll be in support of this. And I just hope that we can do both and not either or.
Well, you know, when we talk about crosstown routes and all, Mr. City Manager, sorry, I'm going to say it again, this trolley, I think, is way too expensive. I think it's a vanity project. The way that it's set up right now is costing us $1 million for 6 months. We're going to have to come up with another $1 million for the 6 months. I mean, there's money right there that we could greatly scale down that pilot project to make it look like what it was originally proposed. Have it run on Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, or, you know, and they really don't need to run from 7 in the morning till 11 at night.
No, it doesn't. There
would be a significant cost savings right there. And I just feel that there are probably other projects that we are not aware of that are going on. And Mr. City Manager, you and I were talking as we were walking today, and you know, one of the things that you said you wanted to look at was our consulting projects. You know, we order a lot of not order, but we contract with a lot of consultants throughout the year. Maybe we need to stop doing that. But anyway, so you know, just I believe there are ways for us to save money in the budget. And that's what we'll talk about at our next meeting.
We keep doing consulting things and studies, but then we don't implement what's in the study. That's a waste of money. Then you got to do a study to justify the previous study. I mean, and the stuff that's going to be implemented in this new study to cover the last study. Why can't we, if we're going to do that, implement things that we said? We keep promising people stuff, and it doesn't happen. And then we do feel-good stuff. It's all feel-good. How many people who are trying to get to work going to ride a trolley? I think a trolley is too expensive. I think PB projects should have stayed what they were. They were $100,000 per district for people. But they're turning into $1 million projects, and I don't like it.
And so we kind of have gone far afield over this one item.
Sure.
And we do have a motion on the floor by Mr. Matheny and a second by Mrs. Boozawaiter. Council, please vote. And somehow or another, I have signed myself off. But I am a yes. But I am a yes. Yeah, 8-1, that passes 8-1. Mrs. Hightower voting no. So that is the end of our agenda. Mr. Davis, you may have gotten me this information, and if you have, I apologize. Maybe you could send it again. Is where are we on the security fencing? And I know that we had put money aside from ARP, and it was voted on by council specifically for the security fences. When will they be going up?
GPD's been working with engineering and inspection. They had to acquire all the components of that process, but I will get you an update and an anticipated goal for that.
Okay, thank you. For the police departments, if you recall that there was an issue. All right, so boards and appointments, I know we have to clean up a little bit. Dr. Wells, you want to take a shot at your cleanup?
Yes. I'd like to make some changes. So for the, I want to remove Dr. LaToya Gathers from the ABC board and name her to the Commission on Status of Women to replace Camille Bess, whose term has expired, and she cannot be reappointed.
And I'm sorry, could not hear who she was replacing.
Camille Best.
Now, Camille is District 1. Camille is District 1.
Well, it's down here as my appointment.
She's not.
Okay, well, anyway.
Because I appointed her. That's why I'm telling you.
But what
So she's a District 1 person.
Is there another opening?
No, because it says, I don't know why, but it says, I hadn't even looked at the number. I just looked at my name.
Regardless, you need to remove.
I need to, yes.
From the ABC board.
From the ABC board, and I need to appoint.
Okay, but Dr. Wells, who was the person on the ABC board?
The person was Dr. Gathers.
All right, so do we have a second to remove Dr. Gathers?
Second.
Seconded by Mary Kay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 9-0. So now there's an opening on the ABC board. Do you have a person for that position?
James Upchurch.
Okay.
Second.
There is a second by Mrs. Hightower. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that passes.
All right, so I've gotten that.
So
we need to have her appointed. So but Camille can't serve anymore.
No, Camille, but she should be in her second term, yeah.
It says that she can't be returned.
No, she can't, but she's in her second.
Will you appoint?
Yeah, but she's in her second term. That shouldn't come up to August.
So maybe you guys can work that out and we can fix it at our next meeting.
Okay, all right.
Mrs. Hoffman, boards and commissions.
One more.
Oh, sorry.
I need to reappoint Carolyn Clifton to the Library Board of Trustees.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay. Mrs. Hoffman, boards, commissions. Mrs. Thurm, Mayor Pro Tem. Mrs. Abuzawader.
No appointments, but I do want to mention that Greensboro has no person on the Insurance Advisory Committee. So if you know of anyone, I've been asked to put that plea out to fellow council members.
I have an idea of somebody who might want to serve. I'll call.
Okay.
Tiffany's on that insurance.
I'm sorry?
Tiffany serves on the insurance board.
She's not listed, is she?
Well, she's on.
I'll check with Kim Ketchum.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you did good.
Zach? You? Sharon? No. So we have to clean up the GC Jack board a bit. I believe Samuel Hawkins was put on at our last meeting.
No, he was on the minimum housing or something.
Madam Mayor, that was on minimum housing.
Yeah, so the recommendation is for Samuel Hawkins, Kevin Lightsey, which is District 2, Jasmine Miller, which is District 1, and Wayne Durham, which is District 3. Wayne was appointed at the last meeting, I believe. Removing 2 members for attendance issues, Quentin Brown and Connie Brown.
So Quentin is my District 1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
these
So
are
I-
actually all mayor's appointments, but it's
Yeah.
with the consensus of council. So we need to remove Quentin Brown and Connie Brown. And
Yeah,
is
Quentin's
there-
job, I think, is
I
interfered.
think he's very busy. So can I have a second on that? Second. Okay, and I'll agree. So,
So I need to get another District 1 person to
well, so
recommend to you.
District 1 would be Jasmine Miller.
Well, that we agreed that District 1 and 2 would have 2 people on GC Jack because
so-
of the issues and concerns.
Right now, what we're appointing tonight will be Samuel Hawkins.
He's a 2.
Kevin Lightsey, District 2.
He's a 2.
Jasmine Miller, District 1. Can I have a motion?
Second.
So moved by Mrs. Thurm, seconded by Mrs. Hightower. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, that passes 9-0. And Wayne Durham was already appointed, correct? Okay, then I'll move that Wayne Durham is the District 3 appointment, seconded by Mrs. Thurm. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, any opposed? That passes 9-0. I think that cleans up the GC Jack board.
Except for now Quentin's off, so that's a 1 that got to be replaced.
Well, that was replaced with Jasmine Miller.
No, that's still, I don't have 2 1s.
Okay.
I only have 1 1.
All right, I'll look at it for the next meeting. All right, that's, I think, the only board I had this evening. Brief council comments, Mrs. Hoffman, Mrs. Thurm, Dr. Wells.
Oh, I wanted, on next Thursday night at 6:30, we'll have a District 2 Town Hall at Bennett College of the Global Learning Center. And we'd like for all of the leaders of neighborhoods, we're inviting those who have been the National Night Out leaders and all of the neighborhood presidents and chairpersons. We want you to come. Our theme is We Are Neighborhoods. We'll see a film and then we'll share some updates of what's happening in District 2, and we'd like for all.
What day is that?
That's next Thursday, the 15th.
15th?
I would like for all of you who can come, because folks ask questions and it might be something that you need to help me with.
6:15. Oh, I won't be able to attend that meeting, but I'll make the next one. Mayor Pro Tem? Mrs. Abuzwaiter? Mr. Matheny? Mr. Holston?
I do want to say congratulations to the Greensboro Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi. They're celebrating their 77th year as a fraternity in Greensboro, and also celebrating their Kappa Week all week this week as they strive for achievement in every field of human endeavor. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sharon?
So, congratulations to the Y. Celebrating today was their Founders Day for 179. For 179 years, and 170 years of having a black Y. And so we had a celebration today at Hayes Taylor Y for their Founders Day. Yes.
Neither did I.
Well, I guess not. I guess it's good. Sometime I can be invited somewhere. So I went and then there is a triad minority event being held June 15th at the Civil Rights Museum from 6 to 7:30. They will focus on small businesses and MWBs. Over 15th, same date as your thing, sorry. So I'll be there. Apologize for that. And then I just want to remind there's Juneteenth celebrations beginning, I believe it is the 15th of June, but the Black Food Truck Festival is on the 17th. It is downtown at LeBauer Park and this year Center City Park from 5 to 9. It's been quite a successful event, and it's 5 to 11 p.m. There'll also be other events, open mic, spoken word, Josephus, the Juneteenth Committee is having events all that week, but the big event is that Saturday, the 17th at 5 p.m., the Black Food Truck Festival. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to mention that the Power 100 Awards, Black Business, Inc., will be at the Stephen Tanger Center this coming Thursday, and that Goldie, Yvonne, and Sharon will be recognized along with our city manager. I'm not sure who else. Guilford County is really very well represented in the top 100, so I would encourage us all to go and to support our fellow council people. What? Oh, and Beach Meet. No, that's this Thursday. No, next Thursday when Goldie has something and Sharon has something is beach music. Yes. Yes. So, Mr. City Manager?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Mr. City Attorney?
I don't want to waste you all's time too much, but I did want to clarify one thing. The young lady that was up talking about what happened with the body-worn camera hearing yesterday. You know, procedural posture under the law can be quite confusing. But in that case, the matter that had been appealed was the gag order. The gag order. That was what was appealed. It came down to be vacated, and that's what happened yesterday, that the court vacated the gag order. There was no motion on the floor from anywhere to make those tapes publicly available. So that issue was not on the table. The way courts operate is by motion. So there was no motion to do that. That was not part of the discussion. Should you all like to have those videos disclosed, we can certainly pursue that, but that would be a separate matter.
So I know that a number of us have watched the video. We had permission to watch it. Certainly releasing it to the public one way or the other, I'm fine with it. We'd have to go through the process.
As you know, there's a new statute about it, and it does have certain steps and hoops you have to go through. We can certainly attempt to do it, assuming it qualifies, but we'd have to go through that process.
My concern about this particular tape is that, while Zared Jones was, suing the city pro se, there were a number of other individuals who were in his group who, quite frankly, may not want that video out, and I don't know if we should contact them to let them know that, there has been a request for the release of those videos.
I mean, you have a valid point. It's nothing that you have to do today. I was just trying to correct her lack of understanding as it comes to a procedural posture of courts. She concluded that because we didn't pursue that at that time, which we had not been directed to do, that somehow we were stepping back from that issue, and that issue was simply not on the table. Had we been intending to do that, we would have had to file motions and go through the specific process to get to that point, and I'm not sure it would have happened yesterday.
But even if we alerted the folks that are in that footage, if they're of age, they can't determine whether that's released or not.
No, this is police body-worn camera held by law enforcement agency.
So somebody that's in there that could be associated with a criminal activity or some activity.
It's got to be an egregious. There's a lot of requirements to it, but the body-worn camera rules are totally different from other videos that might be collected.
Well, I still think the city needs a policy on the other videos as well, but the whole thing doesn't make any sense.
Well, and the chief,
Thank you, State
I think, is
Legislature.
pretty close to his policy, and hopefully we can get that maybe within the next month. And again, I think, I believe he called it critical incidents, that he would have a process for releasing those videos.
Yeah, that would seem to be the appropriate time to consider what you might want to do going next. I don't think it's an urgent public issue right now anyway. but should be addressed pursuant to police policy. They are the law enforcement agency that retains these, and so we'll work with them.
Okay. There is one thing I wanted to say. We had a number of speakers today, almost 2 hours of speakers from the floor, and I want to remind people that statutorily, if that's a word, city councils only have to provide 30 minutes of public comment per month, and that every single month we exceed that by choice. And, you know, that we encourage people to come and speak their minds, and I just want it to be noted that we only have to do 30 minutes, but we always exceed that.
And I think it's a good thing that we do, that we really give people the opportunity to share what they want to share. And I commend you for that.
Well, all of us. Thank you.
Well, but you lead us.
Thank you. All right, motion to adjourn? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? You'd be crazy.